What is up, guys? Welcome back. Turtleboy, Cosgrove preps for the MegaMotion. Good morning. It's a Sunday all day. FIFA World Cup finale. Yep, that's happening today. It is the 19th all day today. Tomorrow is the 20th, July 20th. Wow. Can't believe it. 2026. Aiden Carney was arrested in 2023 in October. And we have a motion to dismiss, a mega one. Again, good morning. We're going to jump right into it. Back in September of 2025, September 19th, 2025, Turtleboy takes to the drawing board, dismiss, breakdown how Ken Mello, Kate Peter, Jen McCabe, Michael Morrissey, Brian Tully conspired to indict Turtleboy for witness intimidation. Do something. Do something. Well, the do something is definitely about the Google search that did not occur. Do something. The Google search did not occur. And How Long to Die is what was born out of the motion that was filed by the defense in April of 2023. So, kind of taking us back. Time has been flying. But the do something, the do something for me is what the hell is going on here? I didn't Google How Long to Die in the Cold at 2:27. Okay. But let's go back and take a look at what Turtleboy wrote. Our 88-page motion to dismiss is a lot to unravel. And although I went over it in detail on the live show Wednesday night, I wanted to put it all in writing as well. The motion is remarkable because it creates a timeline showing how the Commonwealth took 6 months to doctor up these phony charges, the pressure that Jen McCabe and other witnesses put on them to do so, their involvement with Kate Peter, and their intentional deception of the grand jury that indicted me. Now, remember, Turtleboy is represented by Mark Betterow and Tim Bradle. When Turtleboy was dating Meredith, he had a motion to dismiss. It wasn't dismissed. And there were things that were raised here in this motion that were not raised then. So here, in a sense, is this a mulligan? House long, baby. House many mulligans. Jennifer McCabe and Brian Albert had gone to great lengths to make sure that they were not tied to the death of John O'Keefe. Albert's name was never listed in any media coverage, which Police Chief Ken Berkowitz made sure of. Their group chat messages show how upset they were that Albert's house kept being shown on TV. On February 1st, Jen McCabe Googled John O'Keefe after finding out that Karen Reed had been arrested to see if her name was mentioned in any reports. Well, then why wouldn't she just Google Jen McCabe? On February 2nd, 2022, Jen McCabe attended Reed's arraignment and wore a winter hat with a pom-pom and a mask because she knew it would be televised. February 2nd, a pom-pom hat and a mask because she knew it would be televised. Her name was mentioned several times by Adam Lally in the charging documents, and as soon as the hearing was over, she immediately texted her daughter, Allie, something which we had to redact. Now, also what ended up happening is Adam Lally read a bunch of things into the record, and that's where Steve Scallon's becomes his source. Steve Scallon's sources are Adam Lally. These, remember, we're just pulling back all this shit. Again, this was wrote in September of 2025. This is number 4. Miss McCabe was concerned with being publicly associated in any way with Mr. O'Keefe's death. On January 30th, 2022 at 8:06 a.m., she Googled BPD and John O'Keefe. On February 1st at 11:23 p.m., she Googled John O'Keefe. On February 2nd, 2022 at 10:54 a.m., in a text message to her daughter, redacted. On February 2nd, 2022 at 11:37 a.m., Miss McCabe Googled Jennifer McCabe. Despite their concern with being mentioned in the growing media coverage, less than 72 hours after Mr. O'Keefe's death, Miss McCabe and Miss Roberts redacted. But the juiciest thing we had to redact was what Carrie Roberts and Jennifer McCabe texted each other after Karen's arraignment, despite their alleged concern over being mentioned in media coverage. No, that's just what you're saying, and that's where Jennifer McCabe, Colin Albert, Brian Albert, and several others were visited by the FBI for the first time on April 10th, 2023. 14 months prior to that, they had begun their cover-up of John O'Keefe's murder by pinning it on Karen Reed, and up and until that point, it appeared as if they had gotten away with it. April 10th must have been a terrifying day for them. Now, I have a question for you guys. Ready? Let's get our pom-poms out. Wee, wee, woo, woo. Okay. The question I have is how did Karen Reed and Aidan Carney, right, know that Jen McCabe was visited by FBI personnel when in 2023 in April when Turtleboy is reporting on the case? That could only come from one source, and that would be Josh Levy or Adam Deitch. Right? It's one thing to know and to say, hey, we went to the higher ups because, hey, you need to look into this investigation. We're bringing it to you guys. Here it is. It is another thing for the feds to tell you what they are doing after they do it. Now, Adam Deitch is running for, I know that Turtleboy tried to make it seem like, and was only using the name Josh Levy back in the day. He was never mentioning Adam Deitch. And it was Karen saying things like, the FBI doesn't swing and miss and blah, blah, Josh Levy, blah, blah. But here, it wasn't until I saw Jennifer McCabe's recent declaration, affidavit to do with the civil case, right, that Jennifer McCabe comes out and says, I was visited by Adam Deitch and Josh Levy, period. Like, that's who came to my house. But it's like, why would anybody be reporting back to Karen Reed about their movements? Whatever the source was, right? It was a correct, it was a correct piece of information. Jennifer McCabe was visited by an SUV with 2 FBI personnel and, or what he was saying is FBI. And that was mentioned by Turtleboy as early as in April of 2023. Things got worse on April 12th when Alan Jackson filed a 94-page affidavit, putting in a public court filing for the first time that Jennifer McCabe Googled House Long to Die in Cold at 2:27 a.m. and that John O'Keefe was beaten up inside Brian Albert's house, attacked by a dog, and placed on a lawn to die in a blizzard. The McAlberts had tried their best to keep their names out of media coverage on the O'Keefe case and had Googled themselves in the days leading up to Karen Reed's arrest to make sure their names weren't in the media. No, actually, they weren't Googling their names until after Karen Reed's arrest. But after April 12th, their names were available for any media organization to expose. Luckily for them, it never took off. Well, he could have done it. He didn't seem to look into it. From April 12th to April 17th, again of 2023, all the new filing got was a blurb on NBC 10 and a couple other local media outlets. No one was really talking about it. The media they feared turned out to be harmless. And then he cites here this MegaMotion. So this is number 60. On April 12, 2023, just 2 days after Miss McCabe had been rattled, this is what Mark Betterow put in his, affidavit in support. On April 12, 2023, just 2 days after Miss McCabe had been rattled by the FBI. Normally you don't see stuff like that in affidavits. It's just boom, whatever, it is. Miss Reed's defense filed its lengthy motion, which among other things alleged that significant and reliable evidence implicated her and Brian Albert in Mr. O'Keefe's death. Again, I think this timing looks so bad for Adam Deitch right now. Okay, so hold on one second. We're going to go like this. We're going to go like this. All right. We're going to go like this. Yeah. Miss Reed's motion accused Miss McCabe of Googling "house long to die in the cold" at 2:27 a.m. on January 29, 2022. If Richard Green actually does the test that he is supposed to perform before authoring that report, this never happens. So, again, this is number 61 from the MegaMotion. 62 is Miss Reed's defense further alleged that A, it had uncovered significant evidence that Miss McCabe had taken affirmative steps to delete and tamper with evidence. And B, it had a good faith belief that Brian Albert had taken affirmative steps to destroy evidence. Again, this is not good if you ask me. When you go back and you look at this, it's like, yeah, you have this good faith beliefs of this, that, and the other, that the FBI is telling you what their investigation is uncovering. When you go back and put this in a timeline, had a good faith belief. I mean, you're not supposed to write that stuff if you're an attorney, just from, making shit up. 63. Suffice to say that between April 10th and April 17th, 2023, Miss McCabe and the Alberts had strong reason to be concerned about their legal situation and the adverse impact on their public reputations that would result from media coverage of scrutiny they received from the FBI and or from the Reed defense's allegations of their complicit. And I'm just like, oh my God, ready? April 10th through April 17th to cite that time period. Just because you go to the higher ups to say, hey, I can go to a prosecutor right now. and say whatever. I can go to whoever in law enforcement and bring X, Y, and Z, right? But I have no idea if they're doing anything with it, what's happening because of it, right? They don't, hey, Lana, tell me this is what we've done so far, and with your case, or that you presented to us, and blah blah blah. Like, I have no clue. Well, here I just thought it was interesting that Mark Betterer wants to write that. Suffice to say that between April 10th and April 17th, Miss McCabe and the Alberts had strong reason to be concerned about their legal situation and the adverse impact on their public reputations that would result from media coverage of scrutiny they received from the FBI and or from the Reed defense's allegations of their complicity in Mr. O'Keefe's death. How would anybody ever know about anything that took place April 10th through April 17th? To say that would get to the media, because nobody knows what's going on, right? Because the FBI doesn't run around telling people what they're doing. So, no, why would you coming to my house and asking me questions, regardless of what it is, why would I have media concerns? I think what it would show to the McCabe's is, wow, talk about that timing. We just get a visit in a black SUV from Josh Levy and Adam Deitch. And then just a couple days after that, the defense is filing that motion, a motion that they already had put in September, and it didn't go anywhere, of 2022. So I think that if anything here, if you'd have to be an idiot to not be able to put two and two together when you have people that are claiming to be the FBI showing up, and then just days later, then this motion drops that the defense files, and that you're not saying, okay, they're working together. Like, you would not. Why would you not think that? Or that the defense went to the feds. Okay, so in real time, that is totally what you would be thinking. And then you see, boom, Turtleboy then writes his first article on, the same, just days after the motion drops. So you have a visit by the feds, right? Then you have the motion, and then you have Turtleboy. All boom, 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 boom. That doesn't look strategic. That doesn't look like, oh wow, what a coincidence. Then came D-Day for the McAlberts and their protectors in the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office on April 18th, 2023. As I published part 1 of the Canton cover-up series, so remember, this whole thing is that it's all petitioning act, blah, blah, blah. Then came D-Day for the McAlberts. That you might want to take as a quote and put that in your back pocket. The article got 500,000 page views, and the live show coverage of the story attracted tens of thousands of viewers who didn't read the court filing from April 12th until I reported on it. For the first time, Jennifer McCabe, Colin Albert, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, Michael Proctor, and others had not only their names all over the internet, but their pictures as well. Imagine the anxiety they felt going out in public, not knowing who knew about the dirty, evil secret they had spent 14 months hiding. Canton cover up part 1, blah, blah, blah. There it is, April 18th. Jennifer McCabe was a master manipulator from the beginning. Oh my God. Now looking back at this, right? Poisoning the minds of the O'Keefes. Dude, the O'Keefes had their mind made up that morning. The Canton police, first responders, the state police, and the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Wow. All those people, Jen. Jennifer McCabe. Woo, girl, you got pull in Canton shit. I'm coming over for the fucking pool party, girl. Let me just cannonball. Jen McCabe had worked so hard to convince them that Karen Reed was acting crazy. No, Karen Reed's Jen McCabe did not call up Karen Reed and say, "Hey, can you leave a bunch of messages on John's phone where you're saying fuck you and I hate you and you fucking pervert? Can you just do that for me, please?" All right, thanks. Jen McCabe had worked so hard to convince them that Karen was acting crazy and was the real killer of her boyfriend. No, actually what was testified to is that Jen was saying, "Stop talking," when she's like, "Don't say that." Like, what do you mean you hit him? Don't say, "Stop talking. Stop talking. Just stop talking." Like, watch the bot at the dash cam again. And was the real killer of her boyfriend. And she was good at it, says Turtleboy. And she was good at it. For 14 months, no one knew about what she had done. But that ended up on April 18th, 2023. That's so not how you write it, but that ended. It should have been that ended on April 18th, 2023. But Jen isn't one to go quietly without a fight. 2 days after the article was published, she was very concerned about the effect it was having on public opinion. No, actually, she was like, "I didn't Google shit. I didn't Google anything at 2:27. Like, do something about it. Like, hire somebody if you're going to be hiring. I mean, prove this. What do you mean?" That's what the do something about it is. If you actually take it, like this is what you call master spin. Okay. Well, let me just give you the reality. If you fucking, and now it's in textbook right here, the truth line, you need to go out and get the book, or maybe I'll ask the author if I can have permission to publish that simple 5.2 chapter. This is in a law enforcement textbook. Fucking, here it is, baby. This fatty bo batty. Chapter 5.2. And how bad can it get? Why artifacts matter. And it is a sub chapter dedicated to the innocence of Jennifer McCabe, and that she never Google searched shit at 2:27. And if Richard Green had went about doing his methodologies correctly, that should have never been born into a report without it being validated, without that artifact being validated. Because it needs multiple ways to validate it. So that's why Richard Green was not called to the stand in trial too. He would have gotten absolutely upended asshole out for days. But here we go. This motivated her to do something. We were forced to redact due to the protective order that prevents us from publishing communications between government officials and witnesses in the Reed case. However, or would it be not witnesses? I'm curious if it's just victims. However, in response to whatever she said, the DA's office issued a public statement hours later saying they would disprove the 2:27 a.m. Google search. Ooh, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, the defense is accusing that this took place, and you're over here like, no, it didn't, right? Or we need to hire somebody to figure this out, right? That's all. This wasn't some conspiracy. It was like, okay, here, this is what they're saying. You have to go get an expert. Like, that's what you do in law and during cases. The defense went out and got an expert to write that shit in a report. Put it out in a public filing, okay? And now it's there. Okay? And boom. Okay, so we got to see what the hell Richard Green is talking about, right? And we're going to go to Cellrite. That's normal. However, in response to whatever she said, the DA's office issued a public statement hours later saying they would disprove the 2:27 a.m. Google search, which was the primary piece of evidence the public was using to accuse her of being complicit in Officer John O'Keefe's murder. What do you mean? The public, this all just happened within like days, right? Like the filing, then Turtleboy writes, and then right, just boom, boom, boom. The public is just getting wind of this. And just because something is written in a filing, right, it doesn't make it true. So on April 20th, 2023, now, the reason that this date is so fucking important is because that's the day that Alan Jackson asked Turtleboy to call him and they need to talk. Because this is the day I'm going to tell you all about this shit, and you need to start talking about the federal investigation so that I can use it in the courtroom. So here, Mark Betterow in this motion to dismiss, hey, we're going to talk about this, number 66. On April 20th, 2023, no doubt concerned about the viral dissemination of Mr. Carney's article and its detailed exposure of the Reed defense motion, Miss McCabe, and this is redacted, reaching out to who? It was a fuck what Miss McCabe did. Then number 67 comes on information and belief. You do not write those words in an affidavit. Okay. This is something supposed to be sworn to by the facts of X, Y, and Z. But on information and belief, in response to McCabe's blank, which would become a constant, refrain, like do something, right? On information and belief. So remember I told you guys that's not what the whole do something was about. It was, you're not going to go. So right here, they try to say on information and belief, because Miss McCabe wrote whatever, the do something was you're going to go out and publicly and defend me. No. And that's why he has to write this on information and belief. And this is why I'm blowing it up. On information and belief, in response to McCabe's, do something about it, right? The DA publicly stated it would disprove the Reed defense's allegations about the timing of Miss McCabe's Google search. What would you do if all of a sudden you woke up in the morning and you are being implicated by somebody online that you created this master fucking plan to murder somebody that you consider a friend? 14 months after, 14 months down the road, I'd be like, what the fuck? Right? What? I'm being accused of murder, right? Like, wait, what? And that I'm the master? Okay, you think I'm just going to sit there? Again, they have to say on information and belief, telling me, and should be telling all of you guys, that is a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to say. Now, number 68 says, notwithstanding the DA's attempt to tirades the metastasizing scandal by publicly defending Miss McCabe. No, it's not. You're not publicly defending Miss McCabe. You're publicly defending, right? You're publicly defending your case. The case. It doesn't matter who would be in the Miss McCabe blank right there. You're defending your case because you have an expert that filled out and basically wrote a report and is claiming these things. And so you're going to disprove what was just put out there in a motion with an exhibit unsealed. And there was no gag order. So notwithstanding the DA's attempt to, so he writes this shit. That's not what you write. Like, you want to have a memorandum in support, go right the fuck ahead. But if you're having an affidavit in support of your motion to dismiss, it's just usually factual shit. You know what I mean? Here, this is why Mark Betterow has been taking blows after blows by the judge, because the judge is like, what are you doing? Why are you writing this shit? Like this 88 pages, this should have been like 6, 7, 8 pages. But it was for social media. Notwithstanding the DA's attempt to, things continue to get worse for her and the Alberts by the day. Really? That's a fact? You know that? This was the press release sent out hours after Jen McCabe's redacted comments. While prosecutors are ethically constrained in the statements that can be made outside the courtroom, the Norfolk District Attorney's Office is in receipt of the motion filed last week, and it is our expectation to have a detailed response to the court May 3 that refutes the assertions in that motion. That came out by David Traub. He put that in an email. Traub, the spokesperson for the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, initially said it's unclear whether Reed's team interpreted the cell phone raw data correctly. Jennifer McCabe tells the DA's office to jump, and they ask how high, he writes. No. The shots that were fired by the defense was at the case that the district attorney was putting on. Okay. Jen McCabe didn't need to say shit. Jen McCabe is over here saying, I didn't Google anything, right? So go get whoever it is that you get to like prove that, right? Because I didn't do that. And I didn't kill John O'Keefe. And I'm not the master, whatever, puppet here, master planner, all this shit. Like, I mean, wouldn't you? I would hope to God that you just wouldn't sit there. I'd hope to God that you just wouldn't fucking, like, no. So again, Jennifer McCabe tells the DA's office to jump, and they ask how high. They do this because she was their most important witness. How? How is Jennifer McCabe the most important witness? And protecting her credibility was essential in convicting Karen Reed. More than anyone. No, this is what made Jennifer McCabe be this big, like, it's me or you, Jen. Let's roll. That's Karen. But if you think about it, who do you think was the most important witness in that trial, in trial one? You need the police officers to be believable, right? Okay. You need the evidence, right? and the evidence was shit because of the way they went about it. But think about it. Everybody that testified in trial 1, right? They didn't testify in trial 2, and trial 1 ended in a hung jury. Now, there's one problem, though, he says in his writing here. He says, more than anyone, it was her annoyance and persistence that was responsible for the charges eventually being placed on me. You guys, this is what he put in writing. Jennifer McCabe tells the DA's office to jump, and guess what? God damn it, they jump and they say how high. They do this because she was their most important witness, and protecting her credibility was essential in convicting Karen Read. More than anyone, it was her annoyance and persistence that was responsible for the charges eventually being placed on Turtleboy. Wait, no, you are responsible for what you did. Like, what? There's one problem, though, he says. No one from the DA's office had spoken to Jessica Hyde or Ian Whiffen by April 20th, 2023. And Brian Tully contacted Hyde for the first time on May 5th. Oh, really? You think? And Hyde's initial belief was that the defense hadn't converted the Google time from UTC to Boston time. She was already trying to help them out without knowing any of the facts. Are you fucking kidding me? This is how he spun this, y'all. This is so pathetically bad. Here we go. Now, let's go on over here to Cyree, who fucking papows it. Okay? How bad can it get? Why artifacts matter? On the night of January 28th, 2022, Jennifer McCabe came home from a bar in Canton, Massachusetts, climbed into bed, and did what parents do. She picked up her phone and checked her daughter's hockey scores. The Hockomock League, a late night search, a tab opened, the results loaded. Then she set her phone down and went to sleep. She left that tab open. If you have an iPhone, it goes, everybody knows if you look at your iPhone right now, you can have anywhere between up to 500 tabs open. 4 hours later at roughly 6 whatever time in the morning, after, Karen Read called her in a panic. She couldn't find her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, who had been dropped off at a party the night before, hadn't come home. McCabe got in the car. They found O'Keefe face down in the snow outside 34 Fairview in Canton. Read, according to McCabe, told her to search for how long it takes a person to die in the cold. McCabe picked up the same phone, opened the same tab, still sitting on her screen from 4 hours earlier, and typed the search. What she did not know, what no one in that car knew, was that the tab she used carried a timestamp. Not the timestamp of the house long to die in the cold search, the timestamp of the hockey search. The original open time, 2:27. This distinction would consume 2 trials. Cellbrite's extraction software logged the Safari tab's open time as its governing timestamp. When McCabe closed the tab at 10:33 that morning, the software wrote a single database record capturing 2 pieces of information from 2 entirely separate moments. The 2:27 a.m. timestamp from the hockey search and the URL and search content from the house-long query entered at 6:24 a.m. 2 behavioral events separated by 4 hours fused into one artifact row. The tool that created the record did not flag the fusion. It had no mechanism to flag it. The record simply existed, presenting a timestamp and a search term as though they belong to each other. We'll come back to this. Hang tight. I cannot believe that he wrote this up when he wrote this up. Tully then told her in an email that he believed was the reason that the 2:27 a.m. Google search came up on a Cellbrite report. At 6:24 a.m., Jen McCabe used an already opened browser that she last used at 2:27 to research her kids' basketball team. Jessica Hyde then told Tully how much she charged. Morrissey enthusiastically emailed back, hire her. And coincidentally, Hyde ended up testifying nearly verbatim to what Tully's suggestion for the timestamp was. She would say whatever they paid her to say. What a fucking idiot. What a moron. Yes. Consume 2 trials and be a cash cow for Turtleboy merch store. Okay. This was the propaganda of everything. This is the biggest propaganda piece of false evidence, and using it by, I think that Richard Green should have to answer to the fact of why he put in a report if he did not know what it truly signified. He didn't test it. That's absurd. That's absurd. Like, looking back on all of this, I'm just saying Richard Green's name is now attached to this. That sucks for him, right? Now, so this is the material that you guys have all been ingesting, okay, and thinking that this is how it went down and blah, 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 blah. It just didn't, okay? Either way, there was no reason for the DA's office to have any confidence on April 20th that the Google search would be debunked by an expert. Are you fucking high? They internally talk to themselves, meaning the Nick Guerrero. They have their own Massachusetts State Police. Okay, they have experts, or that that they're certified and trained, and that they only can go. Like, do you understand that you can only get, if you're a law enforcement personnel, that there is only places that will let you, being in law enforcement, come and be trained and shit like that with this software. And you know how hard it is for people that are like defense, or I should say independent experts, to go and be able to get those same type of trainings. It's very, very it's very, very difficult because they just don't offer it as much to non-law enforcement people. So for Turtleboy to say what he just wrote in that sentence, which is, either way, there was no reason for the DA's office to have any confidence on April 20th that the Google search would be debunked by an expert. That's just so stupid. Because you would be talking internally. You don't need to be sending emails to do anything to the people that, yeah, we're going to, and actually read how he wrote it when they put out that little presser. They put out that press release to protect Jennifer McCabe's reputation. No, they put out that press release as to defend their case. Okay. And when you have to go through something like this to do all of this to promote your innocence, okay, this isn't a good look when it's all coming back down now on the road. Because what's interesting is now here Turtleboy's fighting for his life, right? And Mark Betterow back in the day wrote this 88-page MegaMotion, and I said, you know what? Let's take a look at that 88 pages one more time again before tomorrow, but just to see. Maybe there's things that you should have never mentioned. So either way, he's saying that they put out that press release, Aiden Carney saying, to protect Jennifer McCabe's reputation after she complained to them. What do you mean reputation? How do you already know that it's causing reputational harm? To protect her reputation, are you admitting that just totally destroyed her reputation? And are you saying that you put it out there to destroy her reputation? It's important to point out that Jennifer McCabe didn't complain to the DA at all from April 12th to 17th. Despite the fact that she had been accused of the Google search in court filings. What? It wasn't until I wrote about it that she suddenly decided that the DA, needed to do something. No, it's because here's a motion. Alan Jackson has been trying to do anything possible, any ways possible, just like he did in September, to file a motion 2022 to get Brian. He filed this motion, and the purpose of it was to get evidence, third-party evidence, or what he was deeming as evidence, material. You have to ask yourselves what the filing was about. What are you filing all this stuff for? And all these exhibits, what's it for? He was using it to get into the phones, right? To be able to get the phones of, this is another chance of, hey, or this is why we need it, because now this. And so here, Jen McCabe is like, I mean, I would, this is how I would look at it if I'm Jen McCabe. Jesus Christ, now they're like, I already know, I don't need to go to the DA. Okay. But now here, I got a guy that's over here now accusing me of murder and writing all this crazy blog shit, right? Hey, you need to do something about this. Like, you guys have like an expert, or you guys are going to get like an expert. I mean, I have no idea what their personal conversation was like, but I could definitely see that, that this is taking on a beast of its own, right? Do something about this. You think that those two words were needed for the DA to back his case? Get the fuck out of there. Are you high? No. He would already know that he needs to go get an expert to go against another expert's opinion. But if Turtleboy wants to brag about, hey, it wasn't until I was writing about you, you know. So number in the footer here, it says, although the DA literally responded to the April 12, 2023 defense motion, Ms. McCabe didn't demand that the DA do something until Mr. Carney's reporting emphasized her Google search and implicated her in the cover-up of Mr. O'Keefe's death. The DA's knee-jerk defense of Ms. McCabe occurred. No, the DA's defense of his case occurred weeks before it hired a digital forensic expert, which occurred on or after April 7, 2023. The day DA Morrissey explicitly instructed his team to hire Jessica Hyde. Okay. We're going to come out and defend against that position because I didn't make a Google search then. It didn't happen. I didn't do that. And in the extraction that they had, meaning the prosecution at that time, it wasn't there. Remember, that gets testified to that he used a different version. So here, just to say that, like, because she anticipated an opinion that might support the DA's position on Ms. McCabe's Google search because of a possible time zone issue. And I could just imagine what a judge is reading, like when they're reading this, it's like, what do you, this is supposed to be based in facts. Number 7, on May 24, 2023, Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts sent some sort of message which was redacted due to the protective order. Okay. That's what he writes in his little blog. So then he goes to number 73. On May 24th, Miss McCabe and Miss Roberts clearly worried about Mr. Carney's growing influence on public opinion. Clearly. Like, you're usually not supposed to write stuff like that. You would just say, on May 24th, 2023, Miss McCabe and Miss Roberts, and then you would write whatever it was. Period. Because this is providing pure conjecture and speculation right here. Clearly worried about Mr. Kearney's growing influence on public opinion. And then you're just subjecting yourself to then the judge to just say those things. And I'm just like, why? But Mark didn't care, because guess what it was for? This was it was no different than everything that Aiden Kearney did for Karen Reed, which was a huge publicity stunt. And so here, Aiden Kearney wants to use it the same way. Here, have Melanie Little and pass this out to the masses and read all this shit. And it's going to do what? Influence. Pre-trial publicity. Influence. Notice how not a single mainstream media outlet has taken to this. May 24th was a day of a Karen Reed hearing in which I confronted these two women outside of court and asked Jen why she Googled how long to die in the cold at 2:27 a.m. Jen has never missed one of Karen's court dates prior to that, but didn't attend another hearing until I was in jail in January of 2024. Why the fuck would you ever write that? Yeah, motherfucker, I knew that you couldn't bother me. I knew that you couldn't harass me. Not that you, like, what the hell are you thinking? Even writing that? Like, that's not good. It's not a good sentence. Turtleboy always starts with, why did you, not did you? Yes. A week after Jen sent this redacted message, she went to Stoughton District Court, where she unsuccessfully attempted to obtain an order on me, and then asked the judge if he could do something so he can't blog about me. The judge informed her that there wasn't anything he could do because the First Amendment protected my behavior, my activism, my commentary, and my journalism. Nowhere here does it say anything about your petitioning acts, does it? My behavior, my activism, my commentary, and journalism. On May 30th, 2023, Ms. McCabe unsuccessfully sought a harassment prevention order against Mr. Kearney. See? 74. You see how that's just a sentence? And it's just, that's a fact. No other fluff on it. You can see when the facts aren't good, there's fluff. Now, number 75. Demonstrating her fundamental misunderstanding of the First Amendment, Ms. McCabe alleged that on April 18th, 2023, the day he first reported on the Reed defense motion accusing Ms. McCabe of complicity in Mr. O'Keefe's death, Mr. Kearney attacked her character. 76. In what amounted to a request for unconstitutional prior restraint on Mr. Kearney, Ms. McCabe urged the court to do something so he can't blog about me. No, you need to listen to that whole thing. I thought Jen McCabe was actually really like chill, and she never lied in it. She never tried to lie and deceive the court to make it seem like Mr. Kearney did something that he didn't do to her to get it. You know how many people don't? You know how many people don't do that? You know how many people lie in those ex partes? Jennifer McCabe did not make one false statement. Go back and listen. In what amounted to a request for, okay, I just said that. Now, Aiden Kearney then, because that's Mark Bettero, because he's taking pieces from the MegaMotion, do something in quotes became the refrain for the McCabes. You know, like singing, like that's just the refrain. There's like a song. The law and the Constitution were not on their side, but the government had all the guns and the power. So surely they could, quote unquote, do something to shut me up. the fuck are you talking about? And they tried lots of things that failed every time. Until Kate Peter came into the picture in September. Oh, and that brings us to page 38 of his MegaMotion, when I just have to put this on the record and say, Mark Betterow wrote in his affidavit, in like a header, Miss Peter immerses herself into the case. I have never fucking seen such fucking ridiculousness being written by an attorney. This is how I'm going to fill out my affidavit, man. Here's Kate Peter. Until Kate Peter came to the picture in September. A month later, Jennifer McCabe proved that she wasn't scared or intimidated by me, as she reached out to me on Facebook Messenger, sent me a picture of a hairy man in a Speedo, which he put out on the internet, who was of John Camo, and implied that she knew I was vacationing in Cape Cod. Number 78 here. On July 1st, 2023, Miss McCabe, who frequently asked the DA and courts to do something, you would have shown more. How about this? You know what I love about this? From April 18th, 2023, then the next, so this is number 78. So there's just one thing in between. So you're moving from April 18th, talking about, that April, I'm sorry, you're talking about that May. That's when she went. So at the end of May. So now you have to fast forward here and you're going to say, hey, on July 1st, she sends this, right? But to write and to say that who frequently asked the DA and the court to do something, where are those messages where she's continuing and frequently asking the courts to do something? Did I miss those? And I clearly didn't, because I showed you guys this is number 78. And number 75 and 74 was on May 30th, 2023. I would have kept pumping where this whole do something. No, you just have these conclusory bullshit, okay, self-serving statements to say on July 1st, 2023, Miss McCabe, who frequently asked the DA and the courts to do something. I saw one time, and it has nothing to do. It's crazy. To do something about Mr. Kearney, oddly contacted him Facebook Messenger and sent him a photograph of a mostly naked man. Miss McCabe apologized to Mr. Kearney and then ominously advised him to have fun in Mashpee, where Mr. Kearney was vacationing, which suggested she kept tabs on his whereabouts. Which suggested, again, just pure conjecture, speculation, ridiculous stuff that you do not put in affidavit. Jennifer Weeks McCabe sent this, and here, but look at May 12th, he wrote her, hi, weirdo. July 1st, 7/18. And he posted. And this is what made John Camo go absolutely fucking wild. Because he's like, Turtleboy, just because she sent it to you did not mean that you have to post it. You chose to post it online. And yeah, because he doesn't give a fuck about anybody. That's so juicy. Look at that. Oh my God, look at that. And then he's like, is that Matt? Haha, it's your boy John C. Who's John C? Sorry to bother you. Have fun. And then look at this. You unsent a message. Look how pussy that looks. he fucking uploads a fucking picture that shows him unsending a message. I love it. I just love it. I think it's funny. Oopsie poopsie. Let me just delete my own fucking harassment. You're very welcome, Texas Brad. Thank you, Lana, for reporting the unpopular truth. Yeah. Everybody wants to be a blowhard, and it's like, dude, why? Why are you guys dying on hills? Why are you dying on hills? I don't understand. Aiden Carney did this all for the money, the nookie. Okay. Aiden Carney tells you why he did it. Go listen to his when he compares himself to Martin Luther King episode. What can you do for me? He's like, yeah, what side should I take? How am I going to go about my reporting? Oopsie pom-pom hat here. Like it. I'm not in Mashpee, but I'll be in Canton again soon. Are you still fearing? Idiot. Did you ever figure out how long to die in cold? Look at him sending high school pictures. Like, that's, I think, when these people were underage. What, like, look, it just blows her up. Then look, it's tried to call her here because that being cut off right there, that looks like an attempted call. Not sure though, but right there. Now, Michael Proctor didn't like the effect that my reporting was having on his reputation either. On July 13, 2023, at the urging of his wife, Elizabeth, he also asked his bosses at the state police to do something and sent them an email with a new pet name for Turtleboy that has to be redacted to protect Proctor's reputation. Now, Proctor's a piece of shit. And so Proctor doesn't get any love over here. On July 13th, 2023, in an email with the subject line, whatever, Mr. Proctor emailed Detective Lieutenant Tully, John Fanning, and Sergeant Buchanan, and Reed Prosecutor Adam Lally, referencing Mr. Kearney as an asshole. Mr. Proctor informed the group, blah, blah, blah. But something didn't happen. Then on July 16th, Morrissey tried to do something else by contacting the Attorney General and begged her to charge me with witness intimidation. Now, I've just showed you and explained this to you how he has a way of making it seem like something that it's not, right? So take a look at this. To charge me with witness intimidation. When she chose not to, he emailed her again on July 21st, right after I publicly announced the rolling rally that would take place the next day, and asked her to do something again. Now, 81. On July 16th, 2023, no doubt. This is Mark Betterow. No doubt. He must like Gwen Stefani. He didn't really mean to write that, right? No doubt. And no doubt. No doubt. Reeling from the perfect storm created by the ongoing federal investigation. The federal investigation, yeah. You are just now admitting that your client using the federal investigation as a fucking sword to use to witness intimidate, witness harass. No doubt, reeling from the perfect storm created by the ongoing federal investigation, misreads aggressive defense and the public's increasing awareness of the growing scandal resulting from Mr. Kearney's reporting about the Reed case. Reporting that was given to him by actually the Reed team and defense. Mr. Kearney's reporting about the Reed case. DA Morrissey, from his personal email address, personal, essentially begged the Massachusetts Attorney General's office, the AG, to prosecute Mr. Kearney for witness intimidation and or civil rights violations. 82. On July 21st, DA Morrissey, from his personal email, again, urged the AG to act against Mr. Kearney. Cannot wait to see, not this stuff, but I can't wait to see a couple things that happen tomorrow in reference to this. Now we get to this amazing number 83. You should not be saying this in an affidavit because you're supposed to be testifying to things that you know are factually true to you. Okay. On information and belief. So you don't have any factual knowledge. You don't have any personal knowledge. On information and belief, The AG declined to prosecute Mr. Carney because it recognized that it was improper to prosecute him for witness intimidation based upon his reporting about witnesses who were upset after being accused in publicly filed court documents of complicity in a high-profile murder. So here, anybody that would quickly read this would make it seem like that he has actually witnessed and seen that. Mark Betterow. But no, read it. On information and belief. What's your information and belief? What is this based on? Do you believe? I believe in God. You know what I mean? What on information and belief? What information? What the fuck information? And I think that should be pointed out. Because if you got it and if you know it, like this is your affidavit here. No, on information and belief. Under MGL 6615, it is a crime for a public official to remove or attempt to conceal the discovery of records that are subject to public inspection under FOIA. Okay, well, you clearly got them, right? Nobody was keeping anything from you. Did you attempt to get them? Or were you guys just lazy and actually had to wait around till Corey came along and was making some sweet ass FOIA requests? How about that? Show me where you guys attempted to get stuff in the Public Requests Act or the FOIA Freedom of Information Act. Because that would be a banger, right? Getting denied and saying that things don't exist, right? Somebody pulling something from one file and so that you got a different FOIA, you got a different response, and then you're comparing the responses to maybe somebody else did and so yeah. The AGO chose not to do something. Again, this is back to Aidan Carney here in his writing. Chose not to do something because they knew that what I was doing wasn't witness intimidation. No, it's just that you are being protected. How about that? What if that's my opinion? Is that right here, the AGO chose not to do something because they knew what I was doing wasn't witness intimidation. No, because that's the same office that is in cahoots with Karen Reed and the defense team, right? And that stuff is being told to Karen Reed's team about the ongoing federal investigation or whatever the fuck they're looking into, right? And then that's when Karen Reed's saying things to you like, because that's what he was trying to get her on. I got to get her recorded on some of this stuff. And if you don't fucking do that, I'll release this and blah, blah, blow this whole motherfucker up, right? Blah, 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 blah. And Aidan, I don't need you telling people about my, me talking to a sitting federal, attorney, blah, blah, blah. Like I told you guys, he is not going down alone. So the DA's office didn't want to charge me because they didn't like the optics of arresting a journalist who was accusing them, of covering up a murder. No, actually, you were accusing who? Michael Proctor? You're accusing them of covering up a murder? Eventually, they stopped caring about optics and decided to arrest me anyway. After all, other avenues to do something failed. Now, again, that is pure. That's Aidan's spin, but not that any of his, activity, his activities that he chose to do and how he chose to do things, right? His behavior and his choice on how to go about things, that led to nothing. On November 9th, Judge Krupp issued a scathing ruling against me. saying that my actions were not First Amendment protected. Emboldened in by this was Morrissey, who was not supposed to be involved in the prosecution, sent the ruling to the AGO and urged them to do something. What? On November 10th, 2023, quote unquote, recused DA, Morrissey from his personal emailed AG Andrea Campbell. He acknowledged that the AG refused to prosecute Mr. Kearney, but he again urged the AG to take some action against him. A month later, in an email to his detectives, Morrissey complained that the AGO had chosen to do nothing. 2 days after the rolling rally and the day before the Karen Reed hearing, is that when you were having lunch or dinner with Matt Gutman? Jennifer McCabe, so this was 2 days after the rolling rally and the day before the Karen Reed hearing that she didn't attend, Jennifer McCabe once again tried to get the DA's office to do something, but you can't know what is due to the protective order. On July 24, 2023, Ms. McCabe told Mr. Nelson. On August 1st, it was Chris Albert's turn to try to get them to do something. If they are reporting on what he's doing, hey, I don't know if you can do something or whatever, but hey, this is what Aiden did. But on August 1st, 2023, Canton Selectman Chris Albert contacted the DA and did, boom, 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 boom. Michael Morrissey tried to get the feds to do something by ending their investigation. They declined to do so on August 3rd. Where? What? On August 3rd, 2023, General Counsel for the Department of Justice, the DOJ, Executive Office for U.S. Attorneys, rejected the DA's request for the Boston U.S. Attorney's Office to recuse itself from the federal investigation. Again, you guys, the timeline of all of this is so fucking skewed that he wants to put out there. It is absolutely fucking ridiculous. This is absolutely wild. The timeline that he's trying to fluff here. It's crazy. The McAlberts and the NCDAO were running out of options, but Jennifer McCabe doesn't give up easily. On August 9th, she once again asked the DA's office to do something. And she successfully got a meeting with state police investigators and the DA himself. On August 9th, 2023, Ms. McCabe, it's redacted. Again, this is, here we go again on information and belief. Mark Betterow, what are you doing, bro? Crazy. On information and belief between August 9th, 2023 and August 25th, 2023, Ms. McCabe, members of the Albert team or Albert family, the MSP and DA Morrissey and or others, fucking whoever the fuck was there, met to discuss Ms. McCabe's latest demand for the DA to do something to stop Aiden Kearney from reporting about her. Reporting about her. 89. On August 25th, so again, this is on information and belief. This is big words here. Between August 9th and 25th, something had to have happened, basically. So this is why Mark Betterow is saying this, because of what takes place on the 25th. So he wants to add this in versus just like not writing 88 in there at all and just going with on August 25th, 2023, DA Morrissey capitulated to the demands and threats of Miss McCabe and the Alberts and decided to do something about Mr. Kearney. Something was DA Morrissey's video recorded public statement. No, motherfucker. Oh my God. What Mark Betterow was leaving out, what took place between August 9th and the 25th. And I put this out because I said there needs to be a correct timeline here. Gretchen Voss fucking slam blasted Aiden Carney and basically outed and tried to say, because she got the information, I believe, from Matt Gutman. But Matt Gutman had dinner with Aiden Carney and Karen Reed at the Seaport 2 days after the rolling rally, or the day after the rolling rally, or like it was right. And I was like, I had no idea that Alan Jackson was in town when the rolling rally was going on. And in defense for Alan Jackson, he could have came in the day after. Okay. But if you actually go and look, ask Matt Gutman when he had dinner at the Seaport with Alan Jackson and Karen Reed, because according to Matt Gutman, Turtleboy was there. Okay. I believe that Gretchen Voss's source was Matt Gutman, because it was Gretchen Voss in August that writes up a article or basically goes to Turtleboy and says, you've been telling people that you have not been working and have not been talking to the defense, but really you have been. Why are you lying about it? And what do? They all deny it again. And why is it really important that Aiden Carney creates this illusion that he has no contact with Karen Reed or her defense team? Because that's his only sources. Everything that he is doing is directly with and for the defense team and Karen Reed and the attorneys. Nobody else is providing him with a goddamn thing. And Aiden Carney took to the Canton Police Department's Facebook page. You guys have to go back and look at what happened and occurred. But between this August 9th and August 25th, there's key things that are being left out. And honestly, it should be from July 20, whatever to name the Rolling Rally Day. Name that day all the way until Morrissey put out this, video. To sit here and say that it was Jennifer McCabe, no. There was a bunch of things that Aiden Carney had done, but they won't put that in the timeline of things that occurred. And that's why he has to write here on 88. Mark Betterow has to be very careful. And that's why he says on information and belief. Meaning that none of this is proven true, nothing. Between August 9th and August 25th, that Miss McCabe, members of the Albert family, the MSP, and DA Morrissey and or others met to discuss Miss McCabe's latest demand for the DA to do something to stop Mr. Kearney from reporting about her. On August 25th, 2023, and so I personally believe it was about what can we do about the colluding? Okay? What can we do about the colluding with the Karen Reed's defense team and the federal in the federal agents? Like, what's going on here? Because how would it appear, like I said at the beginning of the show, is the way that everything would come down upon Jennifer McCabe or anybody that's part of this case with them, and the way that everything boom, 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 it would show you a triangle. And it's the defense team and Karen Reed. They're part of the piece of the triangle, the top of it. Aiden Carney, and then the feds, the federal investigation. And then it's all in one. And that they're all talking. But here, the people that were doing this federal shit, right, aren't supposed to be, you don't tell people what's going on. And, we just met with, so when Aiden came out and said that, I know that there was black SUV in the FBI, they were outside at Jennifer McCabe's house. that was an accurate statement. Where the fuck would he ever get that information from? You think Jennifer McCabe called him up and told him that? So it's like Karen Reed is being fed the information of where they're at and what they're doing in their investigation, which is wild. That is so wrong of Adam Deitch or Josh Levy, whoever. Those are the two dudes that went to Jennifer McCabe's house. So was it Josh Levy or was it Adam Deitch? Well, take a look at who's running, I don't know, for Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Adam Deitch. That's some fucking really whack shit if you ask me. You want to talk about the appearance of something? You want to talk about the appearance of something? That looks like absolute dog shit mixed with cat shit in a big old kitty litter, okay? That's what that looks like when you want to talk about the appearance of something. That something was D.A. Morrissey's video recorded public statement, which press officer David Traub immediately disseminated to local and national print and television media. Yeah, and there's no gag order. And these aren't extrajudicial statements. By issuing a statement on behalf of witnesses with interests that differed from his own, D.A. Morrissey allowed himself, the elected district attorney, to be exploited as a puppet whose strings were controlled by influential private citizens motivated to advance their self-serving agenda, which included silencing Turtleboy. Are you fucking... Dude, Mark Betterow sniffs his own farts. And when he travels back from New York to Boston, he gets high as fuck off of his own ass. Quote me on that. The best attempt to do something was apparently that Morrissey agreed to give 5 minutes hostage video. No, now you've taken the do something to mean the do something was about supposedly the Google search. Like, look at this Twist City. None of this is accurate, but guess what? And it's going to come out when you actually lay out the timeline of events and all the stuff that Turtleboy is leaving out. If Turtleboy goes to trial, he will go to prison. He will be convicted of, if not all of those felonies, a handful of them. You can try to put whatever spin you want on whatever you want. The agenda, which was including silencing Turtleboy. No. And then you're trying to position yourself to make it seem like that's what it's about. Karen Reed and her defense team, how could you possibly fuck up the evidence so bad that you're telling your client to go talk to news media outlets? Because let's not forget, guess what happened between August 9th and August 25th? The ABC release of Karen Reed's interview with, and Alan Jackson's in it, and Yannetti are in it, and Karen Reed's in it with Matt Gutman. That all came from the meeting that took place a month earlier in July. That's what got dropped. There was no do something here. You're fucking totally recreating a timeline and recreating history. You're just not going to recreate that. Lay it all out on a timeline and you're going to see and put it all out there. Put it in chronological order of everything that took place on every single day for the past 3 years of this entire case. Don't ask anybody to narrate anything for you. Say, hey, put it in chronological order of every single day of what happened from both parties. Everybody. And a clear and emerging, very obvious thing is going to come and hit you right in the face, which is Talk about getting in front of stuff and spinning stuff. Karen Reed's Wi-Fi, or John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi, 1236. Okay. Karen Reed makes her first phone call to John O'Keefe at 1233. She couldn't have been sitting at the house on the side of the road waiting for John and then says, oh my God, where is he? I'm going to call him. And that be your first phone call while you're actually sitting there at 1233. Does anybody understand that? No, you're a fucking joke. Swallow me whole. Make it make sense. If Karen Reed's first phone call, which she went out to reporters and said, I called John, I didn't bother texting him, I just called him and he didn't answer. And I was still at the house. The first phone call from her phone to John's is at 1233. Does Karen Reed fly? How did Karen Reed get on the Wi-Fi at 1236 if she's still over there at 34 fucking Fairview? It takes 6 to 7 minutes to drive it. If you were to leave, boom. If I call John at 1233 and some change, but I'm still at the house, 34 Fairview. How does she get on the Wi-Fi at 1236? LOL, I ain't talking about you, Lana. Oh. I was like, yeah, swallow me whole, Scott. I was like, hell yeah, I'm here for it. It's not improper when you actually lay out everything that we're hearing. It would make it seem improper because it was, think about, this has all been propaganda. And so when I actually decided, because I wanted to, Turtleboy was like, nobody's covering my case. And I'm like, I don't understand why nobody's helping this dude out and covering his case. Like, I'm going to start to cover his case. And so I went back to the beginning because I was going to, that's what I do. And when I went back to the beginning, I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Because I didn't follow Turtleboy. So I had to go back to the beginning and do actually my research. And I was expecting to be, I was like, I think I'm in a position I can help, Karen Reed and Turtleboy with this, because if all of the things that are true has happened, I'm going to be able to put this in some awesome timeline and be able to ridiculously help, their cause with this. And so that's what I set out to do. I never thought in a million thousand years what I was going to uncover is what I uncovered. And so I have I just know who I am as a person. I could have just said, holy shit, let's just not talk about this anymore and let's go cover another case. And that's just not who I am. I'm like, no, this is actually wild. Because he was lying this whole time, telling us that he was an independent journalist who uncovered the story. And that by him doing his own independent work kind of collided with like Karen Reed down the road type of thing. And that just wasn't the case at all. And in fact, there's a cell phone that's missing out there. There's a cell phone that's missing out there, which I believe if they could ever get their hands on this cell phone that's missing, that Turtleboy had, that was a Rhode Island number, that phone was ditched. And where I base that on is that Lucky and Steve Scanlon both told the police in interviews that Turtleboy called them off of a specific area code. And they both got the area code right. Meaning they both said the same thing, okay? Not one said a different area code, blah, blah, blah. So like, okay, they were confused. No, they both said that he called from a Rhode Island number, okay? And that has a specific area code. And he has always believed, because he got bad advice down the road back in the day, that if I'm in Rhode Island, I'm allowed to record you even if you're in a two-party state. It's totally not true. Okay. If either party is in a two-party state, that's the law. So when I hear him talk about fucking shit back in the day, he's like, yeah, but I was in Rhode Island. And I'm like, yeah, and you called who? And you recorded somebody from Boston, right? You stupid fuck. You can't do that. you have to be both. If you're in a 2-party consent state, but if I'm in a 1 and a 1, then all day you don't have to tell me that you're recording. But if I try to call somebody, let's say that I called Washington, Washington's a 2-party. I'm in a 1-party, I'm in Ohio. That does not mean that I can go ahead and record somebody that does not know I'm recording them while they're in Washington. You cannot do that. That's not how the law works. And none of his lawyers over the course of the time have said, hey, I want you to understand the law. No, instead they're just going to let him believe this shit. Because maybe being ignorance, well, I know that he knows the law. Because if you go back far enough, you're going to realize that he does know it because of the way that he's done other stupid things in his career with people suing him or him suing them or restraining orders and whatever. But I believe that there's a phone that exists. I mean, not anymore, but it did exist. And Turtleboy got rid of it. He got rid of that phone before he was arrested. That has the 401, whatever that number was. Because I don't believe that both Steve Scanlon and Lucky are lying about the same thing about. But hey, maybe Lucky can clear that up. Meaning that there could even be potentially communications even before 4/18, or whatever the date was that him and Natalie started talking. Because I was able to prove that Turtleboy was talking when he was acting like to Natalie that she was the intermediary, like she really wasn't, but they acted like that. And they had Natalie believing that. And how I know that is because of Turtleboy slipped up in one of his videos and he had already Google searched like the Seaport Omni to like pull up the directions to where he was going that night. And like an idiot, he showed his screen. And so I figure out all of this stuff as I am going back to do this investigation to help him and Karen Reed. And I just can't, I can't unsee what I've seen. And if these other lawyers or people that are talking about this case actually go back and do what I did, it's all right there. And that's why Cosgrove keeps nailing things. And you're just never going to be able to change the true timeline. So I don't see why the MSP didn't just subpoena their phone records. Subpoena whose? Are you talking about like Alan Jackson's and David Yannetti's? Well, you can, but if it's a burner, that phone number that they were talking to, like you would have to subpoena Lucky's and Steve Scanlon's. Subpoena those and look and see what number was calling them back and see if it's a Rhode Island number. If it's a Rhode Island number, I'm telling you I'm right. If both of them just miraculously made a mistake and said the same exact thing, which I don't put any stock in. Yeah, that's okay. So we're saying the same thing. So as far as these statements that came out, it was after Karen Reed and David Yannetti and Alan Jackson went on ABC with Matt Gutman. But that's not in here. And so, yeah, no, they're making statements. They're defending their case. And Bev already ruled and talked about it. And it's like, when you don't show the whole fucking timeline, then yeah, it would be like, what the hell? And that's how I looked at everything. I was like, oh my God, Jesus, what's going on? Then you start realizing, oh, the other side is like all this other stuff is being left out and in the actual timeline. And the biggest part that was being left out was that Turtleboy was talking to Karen Reed's goddamn defense attorneys in April, way before Karen Reed and Turtleboy start talking about like with their phones, and Natalie's like, here, they'll get in a signal, and then here you guys can just talk, and now you're just talking. Aiden Kearney was talking, and I find it hard to believe that Alan Jackson, who is very, very good at his job, would just say, I am going to get in fucking bed with Turtleboy, a guy that I don't know from fucking dick, and give him information and have him report on something. And then I'm going to then use his fucking reporting to put on a motion as to where I got the information from. So I'm circumventing the courts. That's misconduct. And I'm going to trust that this man is not going to fucking blow the whistle on that and be like, yo, wait a second. You guys were my source. I wasn't your source. How did Alan Jackson know that Turtleboy would not fucking do that? That's not fucking something that just happens in like a... Why do you think Alan Jackson did his goddamn show? Why do you think fucking David and Eddie did his goddamn show? This is absurd. And when we're talking about the type of defenses that Alan Jackson is a part of and the resources that he has, and that they're going to check into everything and they're going to roll the fucking film forward, right? There is no way that you're going to be able to sit here and tell me that Alan Jackson just met or actually never met Aiden Kearney and never talked to him on the phone prior to 420, which is even just a horrible day in and of itself, because that's when then Aiden Kearney writes up I think that they always wanted that to be a paper trail, potentially, but the real potential paper trail could come from that Rhode Island phone number that I believe is a burner. They sure do. It's not illegal. It's unethical. It's not, what they did wasn't illegal. It's against their, what Alan Jackson did should have disqualified him, and he should have not have been able to be pro hoc vice. That's what should have happened. But they couldn't prove that yet. And so here, it wasn't until Turtleboy, after the case was over and Turtleboy's getting pissed because I'm getting left out type of thing. And I'm just, he's just a fucking idiot. He blows up his own spot every other day, and he blew up his own spot and Alan Jackson and Karen Reed and David and Eddie's spot, because he did an interview and he's like, yeah, man, Alan Jackson's a fucking genius. And, they give me the information on the federal investigation. I then, report on it, and then they use me as their source. It was just genius. Alan Jackson's just a genius. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, he did not just fucking admit to it, because before it would have just been really strong circumstantial evidence because of the phone call that took place on 420 between Alan Jackson and Turtleboy. That phone call takes place. And on 420, after the phone call takes place, Aiden Kearney produces a typed up blog. And that's the first day that they talked about the federal investigation. And he talks about an FBI investigation. And then, Karen Reed's over here like pushing, why aren't you telling him to talk about the federal investigation? Because they need him to talk about it and write about it so that they can do what? Cite it. And that's what they did. They cited it as their source to the courts to be able to introduce it in open court on May 3rd, whenever that was the big holding up the dog bite arm looking thing. And that's the day they got boom. And I was just like, when you go back and you can't unsee it, and you're just like, wow, this is some sick shit. And I'm over here saying Proctor is corrupt, like all these things, but don't sit here and say that you fought corruption with clean hands, because you didn't. And that's how you tried to sell it to all of us, that you were fighting corruption. But really what you were doing is you created your own fucking propaganda tour. And it's like anything. Their way of handling it and the tactics that they employed and how they did it gives me just as much reason to not believe that Karen Reed didn't do something to John. It's an integrity thing. And then just like how it's like here, when you go into a courtroom and you shred a case by blowing it up that you can't buy in because of all the, the cop sloppiness, the corruption, stuff like that. So what Turtleboy has essentially done is taken a movement that everybody would have just went down in history with, but because he couldn't keep his motherfucking mouth shut, and I decided to look into his case because I thought I was actually helping him and Karen, I actually uncover one of the world's, well, in my career of covering cases, this has been one of the possibly the biggest scandals that was played out like it was some great righteous movement. And it just was not. It was actually this was not a movement. This was a mockery. So the do something plan wasn't working out as planned. This prompted Michael Proctor to send out a group chat message to Tully, Sergeant Buchanan, Morrissey, and others that is redacted due to the protective order. So let me tell you also what was happening here. In order to create a specific timeline that they wanted and were able to try to use for the courts, Aiden would go and do stuff on purpose to create reactionary. Alan Jackson knew, because he's a prosecutor, he knows how discovery works. He knows all the ins and outs and how you can ask for things and what's going to be there and yada, yada, yada. Okay. He did it. It's what he did in fucking LA. He would know that by Turtleboy doing certain things, that it is going to cause a reactionary. These people are going to go and do something as they should. It's going to create a discovery paper trail. Okay. But people don't keep track of the timelines well. And if we only go and ask for certain things, and we're going to be able to curate this different timeline and make it seem like something that it's not. And that's where, I think Alan Jackson knew exactly what he was doing, because Alan Jackson's a very fucking smart person. He's very good. And Alan Jackson's looking at it like I'm defending an innocent person. And so if I know some loopholes, we're going to go ahead and try to do it like this. And I mean, would you rather be known as the guy that goes down as defending Harvey Weinstein? Or would you rather be known as the guy that defended Karen Reed, who created a big, crowdsourcing, all the things that you think the Karen Reed movement's about? What would you rather go down as? You don't want to be known as, hey, I have an opportunity to make my career and my name, my image into this household name that I saved an innocent person's life. But you might want to peel back the onion a little bit. When you peel back the onion a little bit, it's not what it's not what it seems to be. And the people that I feel really bad for are John's immediate family, and to have to hear every single day that open my eyes and we don't fucking know shit, and why am I just letting and working with my brother's killers and all, everything like that. It's like Turtleboy took it to a level that should have never ever happened. And this isn't about justice for John. And if it was, Turtleboy, his actions after freeing Karen Reed, allegedly, and justice for John O'Keefe and all this stuff, Turtleboy has not placed one public records request. Turtleboy has not gone and done anything. He's just selfish. and he did all of this for selfish reasons, and he can't control himself. And trust me, um, he will bring it all down, whether it happens, you know, tomorrow, in 3 months, in 3 years, in 10 years. Uh, Turtleboy will not be able to not bring it down. And he's already brought it down a ton. And it's Alan Jackson and all these other people, because it's their reputations and it's what they've been involved in. And that's why Turtleboy always thought that he was going to be protected, because I got stuff on them. And we saw it firsthand the other day when Alan Jackson went in there basically as like Turtleboy's attorney when he was representing Karen Reed's interests in the phones. So I don't know. I'm planning on having a pretty big debate about it, because whatever I have wrong in terms of a timeline, the timeline and the information is how I base my opinion. So if I have the timeline wrong, then my opinion, you know, your opinion should come, whatever your opinion is, it should be coming from information. You just don't get to come in and be like, well, I think that she's innocent, or I think that she's guilty, or I think this, or I think Jen this. And I think, dude, what are you basing your opinion on? So for me to have a debate with somebody, it's like, okay, what material are you relying on? And what material am I relying on? And then when we lay this all out and you see, okay, this is why I think this. Why do you think that? And I show, and you say, okay, hey, this happened on this day. And I say, okay, well, we got to go back 4 more days, because this is actually what happened before that day. Do you see this? And they're like, oh, okay. So you have to put that in to the timeline. And then if you found like, oh, hey, well, what about this? Okay, well, let's put that in, you know? But the timeline of events is very, very important. And then the next timeline is just as important is just because something happened on that day, it's when did that person or people that this would affect know about it? So then there's that timeline. Yes, the timeline tells a story, and when people are just cherry picking how to do their timeline, or what to put in their timeline, I should say, not how to do it, because a timeline is it's a fucking chronological order of events. Like, let's lay it out here. But when you cherry pick, your timeline then is why you have the opinion that you have. Well, put the timeline correct. Put the timeline with all the information, and then like let's debate. And so when you look at stuff and you pay attention to who's omitting what and where they want to start at, and I'm like, you can't even get to that point until you figure out your foundation is so flawed. So let's go back. Let's peel the onion, keep going back to have a structurally sound foundation here, so that you can have your opinion can be based. And this is where my opinion comes from. Then you can tell somebody. That's why I don't care when people say, Lana, when somebody asks me what I think, I don't answer that. Lana, do you think Karen did it? Do you think Karen, I don't care. I want to know. You should ask me, Lana, what are you basing if you have an opinion, what is it based off of? That's the question that you would always want to ask somebody. You know, hey, what news channels do you watch? What podcasts do you watch? Think about it. Okay. Then I already know your opinion. Right? Lana, do you think that John was hit by a car? I'll tell you this. As much as anybody thinks that John O'Keefe was hit by a car is as much as I think that John was not bit by a dog. How about that? because before this case ever got into the hands of any expert speaking on anything publicly, we took the pictures that were posted on May 3rd in that courtroom and took them to two highly, highly respectable people in law enforcement that do shit, and said simply to them, hey, I took the arm pics, all of those 6-7 pics that we saw in color. What do you think happened from these pics? What would you say? Oh, this person looks like they were in a car, like something with a car. Something to do with some dragging with that arm. I said, holy shit, I could not believe it. I said, wait, what? Did not say the case, did not say what case this is, didn't say shit. I was blown away. And then here, I said, oh my God, well, what about the, then you're going into like x-rays or bruises or bones, right? But it all would have to do with the placement of the person on when they would come in contact with anything. It would all come into play with the where they're at in whatever's like in that immediate surrounding. And when me and Bella went to the house when we were out there for like a week, first thing I noticed was, first of all, it's a really small area. But the first thing I noticed was, I said, oh my God, they have the old school like curb berms that like, they're like made of like asphalt, but they also have, when they go to like curve them over like this, after they get used, time and time again, the tops of them, they start to develop like different defects, where it could be like maybe a plow laid on it, and so therefore it got like a little line, and so I was looking at that and I was like, oh, holy shit. And when you get out of a car, if you come up and you pull up to the side of the house like that and you're on the side of the road, if you're not used to that and you jump out of the car, okay, and you come to get out, you could easily actually trip. Because I didn't know, like, so when I get up to go out of the car and go down, it's like you can easily take like that stumble. Okay. And I was like, wow, that was never talked about in terms of like pulling up and, that curb. But the weird pattern in a couple of the areas of that curb that when we were there, it was very, very interesting to me of some of the pattern shapes on top. And I'm shocked that nobody ever went through and took pictures after the, because it would have been after the snow had already melted. But when they were getting out of that car, if they got out there, go take pictures of the top of that berm, if they would have done this at the time, because I think that there's some significance there with that curb, with the berm. So for me, I'm a digital person. I like the digital evidence because it kind of like emerged the way that DNA did back in the 80s and 90s. And so I was blown away, as I think everybody should, when you use the steps, the movement of the phone, and then the new part, which is the pocket state. That was the first case that we'd ever seen where pocket state was being testified to, that at least for me. And then we're hearing about the battery, the life of the battery, but more importantly, the temperature. And when you lay out just a window of, I saw that if John O'Keefe's phone starts moving back at 12:21, I said, they're on Oakdale, there was cops that lived there. And I said, that's where the steps start. And so the first trial, it was, hey, if you're driving on a street or whatever, your steps start, but also there's the flights of stairs, and it was about like the hilly stuff. I said, if anything, John O'Keefe got out of the car there. And if they were lost, okay, or hey, let's stop by and let me grab something before we go wherever, whatever the hell's going on in that car. We have no idea. Okay. But the steps and stairs all start on Oakdale. And then I took that and I lined it up with one of Karen's statements to say when John got out of the car, it was pitch black. There was like, looked like nothing was going on there. And that story changed. Okay. But that's one of the stories. And I said to myself, that would be consistent with going over and getting out at Oakdale and running off, you know? And then her waiting there, her looking around like there's nobody, it's all pitch black. And then she tries to call or whatever. And it was also, so I said to myself, since she had never been to 34 Fairview before, and she never said anything like, I remember seeing, you know, a bunch of cars there, the fucking lights are on, people are running in and out of the house because a truck pulls up behind me, and then people are coming out or going in, or what could appear to be that way. You know, people are looking out because they keep on coming over the door, right? None of that was said. And so I'm like, dude, I don't think that she was at 34 Fairview. And if she'd never been there before, for all she knows is that wherever John is telling her to go, like, hey, turn left here, go this way, go that way, she could have thought she was at 34 fucking Fairview. And then that would coincide with what I looked at it is, it would make sense that this whole time she thought that she was at 34 Fairview. And so when I put this out and said something about this way back before the trial, I always wondered why it was so hard, like why nobody wants to bring any attention to this or don't talk about it and don't give it any airspace. And I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck is wrong with you? If you can show that, oh my God, I actually never even went to that house. So then how the fuck did John end up there? If you never went there, Karen, how the fuck did your taillight get there? And this is consistent with somebody planning all this shit on you. That's what I'm over here thinking. Like, why isn't somebody actually looking at the evidence instead of making the big mistake that you don't ever do as a defense attorney is just because your client says something doesn't make it true and you don't go with that. And so what blew me away is when I started looking at stuff, I'm like, why would Alan Jackson ever do an interview with Karen Reed and David Unetti? And Karen talks about the fact that she making these statements and then saying that she calls him when she was at the house because she's frustrated, he doesn't answer, and then she drives off. And so Alan's over here saying that Karen also called while she was at the house. He makes it a point to say that in the Matt Gutman interview. And you have to remember, like, that's what we're going off of, not all of the stuff that's after the fact. Going into trial one, that Matt Gutman interview happened before trial one ever happened because it happened in July and August, and then August it premieres. And then this is what comes up after it. This part right here, the hostage video. It came, that was released because of the Matt Gutman shit. But they're trying to make it seem like that wasn't why. And I asked myself, I said, at that point, did the defense team know? So I go back and look at the discovery, the sealed or the certificate of discovery transfer to see when did Karen and the defense team get the router and the Wi-Fi information? Because Alan, if you had that before July or August of 2023, how in the fuck are you letting your client do an interview saying that you were on the side of the house, parked in a vehicle, and at 12:33 and some change, because it would eventually come out, that's the time of her first phone call to John O'Keefe. So Karen makes that call, and she's saying that she's at the house still, 34 Fairview. How does Karen get on the Wi-Fi at 12:36? It's a 7-minute drive. You cannot physically do that. So what that would mean is that Karen at 12:33 did not call John while she was on the side of the house. That call had to be made halfway between, which would mean that Karen Reed has a false memory here of calling John while she's at the house. She called, the first time that she called was at 12:33, which had to have been after she already left. Well, how would you have a false memory of that? And why would you ever allow your client to talk about something that's just absolutely not jiving with the evidence that you are in possession of because you've looked at it? So now I said, now if they didn't have the router information yet, but so the key question is to find out when the disclosure of the Wi-Fi was given to, and I had it, and it was prior. I went back through the discovery, and you could see all the different discovery numbers, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they have the certification. So this is the dates that we gave everybody, whatever it was. This is the date that it was discovered, meaning it was turned over. And I have it as being prior to that interview. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? Did you not did you not understand the math? And so if you actually then do the math, then I said, to me, it's not logical that Karen would sit in a car. If she was just planning on dropping him off, you drop him off and you leave. Okay. There is no waiting then to see if we're invited, because I'm going to come in too. And so I said, okay, but because that was Turtleboy's version of the story was different than the way that Karen was telling the story. And I said, how could that be? Are you not paying attention to what your source is telling you? That you're going out here and putting out stupid shit? Or does somebody not remember what the fuck they truly did and you're just saying stuff? Because I think it matters. I think it matters what Karen is like, dude, I'm sitting there, I'm waiting. I watch him go off to the house. I don't see him go in though, but I'm waiting and I'm waiting. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Where the fuck are you at? Is this the right place? Are we invited? So then she's like, so I call him. And I could not believe that I'm listening to this. And she's like, okay, I'm calling him and I'm at the house. And it's like, well, that's not possible. You couldn't have called him while you were at the house unless you're going to argue that the timestamps of the router are off. And you would never want to do that because it's putting you, right, at the house, right, at 12:36. You don't want to fucking move that. You want that. And so if you do the math, Karen Reed would have had to leave 34 Fairview if she was in fact at 34 Fairview at 12:29 to be able to make it math-wise and to be on the Wi-Fi at 12:36, right? But here's the problem that I also saw with that is that John O'Keefe doesn't get out of the car, right? Allegedly, supposedly, if you go off of his time stamps, right, of his when the steps start moving again, and that's at like 12:31. Unless you bring in the earlier steps in the movements earlier that aren't attributed to driving up a hilly street, and that's how your steps are being moved. And so what I couldn't believe in all of this is that Alan Jackson and his defense team, they should have had their own little meeting and said, guys, here, this is the data. And if they go with this data, what Karen is saying cannot be true. Unless Karen dropped John off at a different house, which would make all the sense in the world why there was then he gets out of the car and goes and runs. And this whole time, that's where Karen never then was ever truly at 34 Fairview. Because I always said, if you're going to talk about the biggest lie ever given is Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe and people saying that they saw you and John physically pull up to 34 Fairview. Because if they're going to lie, right, that's the big lie, is to say that we have to say that she came here. We have to say that she came here. And nobody was ever making that correlation, these idiots. But when I realized what an idiot Turtleboy is and that he doesn't know shit about the case when he started talking about it, he doesn't know cases. He doesn't know how to break them down. And I'm like, I can only imagine what that deposition was like that Karen Reed had to go through. But there's a very small window here, and I looked at it like you'd want Karen Reed away from the area by 12:29, right? But then Karen Reed does another interview, and she wants to say that she was in the car when John was pumping it into Waze and then telling her, and I remember them, passing it up and turning around, but she doesn't ever make and do that interview until after trial 1. And I'm like, oh my God, why are you saying this? Because the reason in trial 2 that they could never use Karen Reed, because they could never say that Karen Reed was actually driving and went there. It could just be assumed. But until Karen Reed gave that interview. And then Karen Reed is saying that I was in the car, John is pumping this into Waze, and so it was his phone, and then we're following it. And that's what they were able to use, because then now Waze was being able to be used by the Aperture people. And then when you're able to do and use that, you're using John's, and that's when Ian Whiffen made that ridiculous fucking report, because they used John's Waze for all those points in trial 2 with his report. And I was like, holy shit, in trial 2, it was all lined up. Like, this looked awful for Karen Reed. Awful with the digital data. It's bad. It is absolutely fucking horrible. And now think about this. Now that we know that the Google search never fucking happened, oh my God. Oh my God. By Karen Reed admitting that she was in the car with the Waze, because at first they were able to try to say that no, he got out of the car at 12:24 at what do you call it? You were able to have the argument that when they arrived at 34 Fairview, you're able to say that, and you're trying to fuck with like the Waze is off or whatever, and I'm over here saying, well, John could technically be in another person's car because it's not Karen's, but you could never attribute that data to anything to do with Karen and the rest of her data, because experts just can't assume things. But they could after she did that interview. Now you're allowed to use hearsay and you can do things. And I'm just like, holy shit. Why'd you do that interview? Because now you're going to go off of that data, which is the Waze. And you know how it wasn't argued in trial 2 about this whole 2. There was no arguing that the Waze time was off. Okay. There was no arguing that by the defense. And I'm like, okay, so think about this. Then that actually aligns with everything that I just told you guys, which is Karen Reed then pulls away at what time? And what time did she first call John at 12:33? What time was John hit, allegedly? How fast was Karen Reed going that night with her car? It was like 12:36 in like 40 some seconds that it showed up on the Wi-Fi. She never called John while she was waiting on the side of the road. That's what the proof is. And it made me barf. It made me fucking throw up. But we were fucking fed so much propaganda and bullshit. And the biggest so that's what I think about the case. I think that everybody should barf on all ends because John O'Keefe deserved way better. He didn't deserve the investigation that he got. Everybody should have been on their top game. Put the top people on there for the do work, and it doesn't matter what Karen Reed's saying or her attorney's saying about, okay, it was just an accident or there was no will intent, and you guys thinking that she's just gonna work a plea or blah blah whatever the fuck. And then you got Michael Proctor being a complete fucking piece of shit, right? You got Sean Good, who's just another complete fucking piece of shit. And these are the people that investigated John O'Keefe's murder. John O'Keefe wasn't a piece of shit. He didn't deserve those people to investigate his case. And had those people not investigated his case, I think there's a totally different outcome. Because that's shit. Because who knows? Maybe these people on their own took it upon themselves, and the Sean Goods of the world, the Proctors of the world, nobody needs to tell those motherfuckers shit. They're just going to do whatever they want. They will plant. They will do whatever. No, there needs to be no conspiracy here with anybody. They are just going to do whatever they want. And so just to include the witnesses in on how they wanted to behave, because it was Sean Good that had the dash cam on his cruiser and then purposely moves his car into a way that you couldn't see what was going on with the leaf blower and finding evidence, and where it technically really, where you should have actually done is, hey, I know that I have a camera on my vehicle. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to pull up as close as I can. And I'm going to have another way to get this all, on tape. I'm going to sit out an officer or sit here and wait, even if it's not we can't rope it off because we can't have the tape up. Who cares? But we need to sit here. We need to find out what's going on. We now have a dead officer and we do not know what happened. It was an unattended death. Come on. So John deserved better. And then if you do better, then the witnesses would have had their statements recorded. If you do it the right way, anybody that was there, everybody's being recorded, right? So if we think that it helped the witnesses by not recording them, no, Proctor did them no favors by doing it that way. But you can't sit here and say that Proctor got it all wrong and was lying for all of them. And because when they want to get on the stand and say that, I didn't say that to Proctor, or those weren't my words. I didn't say that. How can you not believe them? Because Proctor's lazy and he could just write whatever he wants, especially when you're claiming the same thing about what Proctor said and did for people that, other witnesses. So it's just that the bottom line is that you go talk about the data. Woo! Woo! The digital data looks absolutely awful for Karen Reed. The digital data. We still to this day, I would love to find out why Karen Reed's vehicle is being shown and flown and that it's in slammed reverse for 24 miles an hour I'm curious to see if that will come out in the civil case. But after you find out the shenanigans that were pulled with the whole federal investigation, and that the federal investigation that ARCA was hired by who again? The Adam Deitches and the Josh Levy's, and now, yeah. Well, Lana, what do you think? Well, this is what I think about it. I think it's all fucking sketch. Remember, ARCA was only tasked within the beginning from the federal investigation to make a potato launcher and fire a rocket, aka to see if the throwing a glass at Karen's thing would bust it. That's what the fuck they were hired to do. So let's not forget about that. I thought that ARCA's when they used, what was that dummy's name? Go look at some of that shit. Anyways, that's our preview. It's going to end with right here, Turtleboy saying, this last effort by D.A. Morrissey to stem, or no, this was by Mark Betterow, to stem the snowballing criticisms failed miserably. On September 3rd, 2023, in a group text, which included D.A. Morrissey, Detective Lieutenant Tolley, Sergeant Buchanan, and others, Mr. Proctor, referring to Kearney, asshole, said the quiet part out loud, asking blah, blah, blah. However, then sends Turtleboy, however, it was stated in open court by attorney Bradle that on September 3rd, 2023, Proctor said or asked, why aren't we just arresting him? In other words, they knew that what I was doing wasn't illegal. Dude, his cause and effects are just fucking priceless. The spin he does. If it was illegal, they would have arrested me right after the rolling rally. And the AGO would have charged me at Morrissey's request. As Attorney Betterow pointed out, it is Orwellian of the government to weaponize the witness intimidation statute against a man who the AGO already determined had committed no crime in order to silence his reporting on the same people who would arrest and prosecute him. Number 97. As it turns out, Mr. Proctor's blah, blah, blah. In the aftermath of the public statements and after being repeatedly rebuffed by the DOJ and the AG, the Commonwealth played its only remaining hand, shut Mr. Kearney up by prosecuting him itself. No, it also just looks like there could be potentially cahoots over here as to why Aidan Kearney was being untouched, because it was Aidan Kearney's part of the Karen Reed, is part of Karen Reed, and Karen Reed's part of Adam Deitch. You get what I'm saying? Like, come on, this is not fucking rocket scientists. Like, this is just bullshit here. This is just showing you how dirty anybody and everybody can play. And we all fucking we all watched it. And some people want to keep fucking drinking the soup and slurping from these fucking sloth badge bowls. Go right the fuck ahead. I am not. Because none of this should be happening in this capacity, in this manner. Both sides. But guess who started it? Not the state. We know that when Proctor sent that text message on September 3rd, we know there were no plans to charge me. Oh, really? Oh, really? Because David Yannetti seemed to think that you were getting charged, motherfucker. We know. Boom. How bad does that? How bad did that just burn? We know. The fuck David Yannetti thought you were getting arrested. Look at this. We know that when Proctor sent that text message on September 3rd, there were no plans to charge me. But somehow 3 weeks later, Mello was hired. So what changed? Look at how he wants to word that. We know. No. We don't know shit. In fact, David Yannetti's the proof on that. Ooh! Look at how bad that is. David Yannetti saying, what a lie. So what changed? It's unclear on what day the light bulb went off in their collective heads, and they suddenly decided to use the emotional harm provision of the witness intimidation statute to arrest me. Nope, it's not. Is there any messages of people saying, I'm not going to testify? Or, because we don't know. I have no idea. Use the emotional harm provision of the witness intimidation statute to arrest me. But on September 15th, it was another bad day for the NCDAO and the McAlberts, as I led a large protest outside of Karen Reed's hearing in Norfolk Superior Court. And inside the courtroom, the crowd cheered for Reed as she entered. This is just another bad day. Oh, wait, so you did this? So you're making it seem like, so when was this? Oh, on September 15th? And when did they hire Mello? This was the day when Paul O'Keefe shouted, "Fuck you, asshole," at Nathan Reed. What? When he entered court. It was the hearing where I confronted Yuri outside of court. And the same hearing where I walked the Dougals to their car after court. Look at how he wants you. He wants you to think that this is why and how this went down. I cannot believe this. This is fucking the biggest. They gaslight using propaganda demons. Yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy. He's leaving out all this other shit. Karen Reed should have carried on after being found not guilty, 1,000%. But people needed to get paid because there was no money, because they took all the money and were eating out at fucking, I don't know, 5-star restaurants every other fucking day. And racking up, I don't know how you're racking up $4 or $5 million in legal fees. Her downfall will be continuing on with various court cases. The burden is so much lower in the wrongful death. September 15, 2023 was a devastating day for the McAlberts and the DA's office because they realized their attempts to silence me had failed. The courthouse belonged to Turtleboy. Look at this. The courthouse belonged to Turtleboy. Not Karen Reed, not John O'Keefe. It belonged to Turtleboy. Oh my God. The courthouse belonged to Turtleboy. In the public's eye, Turtleboy was the good guy. And they were the bad guys. Look at this fool. The movement was growing stronger by the day. And they were powerless to stop it. But Jennifer McCabe is not used to not being in control. Look at his heart on for Jen. This man is sick. And she never gives up. No, that's you, Bo. That's you. She had been mentioned several times by Karen Reed's attorneys that day in open court. And once again, did not attend the hearing. 3 days later, she fired off another redacted do something message. She demanded another meeting with the DA to discuss what had happened at the hearing on September 15th. She demanded to know what had happened at the hearing. Wasn't all those herrings live streamed? On September 20th, she texted victim witness advocate Stephen Nelson, who for the first time had been named and exposed in a Turtleboy article. And he assured her of something. Oh my God. On September 15th, so then this is with Bettero, on September 15th, 2023, in connection with Miss Reed's court appearance, Mr. Kearney and a large group of supporters loudly protested outside the Dedham courthouse. On September 18th, Ms. McCabe again informed Mr. Nelson blank. Ms. McCabe wanted to meet with the DA blank. And in fact, what occurred blank, the September 15th court appearance was official business blank. Miss Reed's case in the courtroom and blank, the appearance protesters exercised the First Amendment rights to criticize Ms. McCabe for her alleged involvement in a cover-up of Mr. O'Keefe's death. On September 20th, 2023, Ms. McCabe again told Mr. Nelson blank. Mr. Nelson assured Ms. McCabe blank. It's unclear what happened at this meeting, but days later, on September 26th, Ken Millo signed his contract to be the special prosecutor in my case. On September 26, 2023, DA Morrissey recused his office and engaged Mr. Mello as a special prosecutor to handle the anticipated prosecution of Mr. Kearney. Mello was reportedly their 12th or 13th choice and had never prosecuted a case before. He misspelled office on his website and had a long documented history of unethical lawyering. Yep, sure. He would act as Morrissey's puppet in an attempt to prove that the DA's office had recused itself due to the obvious conflict. However, the state police also had a clear conflict, especially since Buchanan and Proctor were allegedly victims of mine. This didn't stop either one of them from being actively involved in the investigation that led to my prosecution. There's no investigation. You record yourself committing crimes. Oh, this isn't a fucking clue game, goddammit. Although the DA's recusal indicated that DA Morrissey's appreciation for the clear conflict that would rise from the office prosecuting of a journalist, blah, blah, blah. Detective Lieutenant Tully frequent target of Mr. Kearney's criticism, remained the lead investigator, Mr. Proctor, who recently had referred to Mr. Kearney as an asshole and a blank, and Sergeant Buchanan, also regular targets of Mr. Kearney, continued to participate in the investigation and later became named victims in the pizza protest. Fucking pizza. The police were called and did nothing. Chris Albert must have felt powerless in his own town, where he controlled the police department that his brother Kevin served on. On September 26th, I protested and confronted Chris Albert during and after a Board of Selectmen hearing or meeting. But this time he spoke with a cocky sense of confidence. This just so happens to be the same day Mella was hired. Oh, look at the conspiracy theorist over here. Look at Aiden. These jurors, pray for them. Pray for them. On September 26, 2023, Dave Morrissey recused his office and engaged Mr. Mello. I thought we already talked about this. Jesus. Chris knew that I was going to be arrested and prosecuted, which explains his demeanor. Feeling confident, Chris went to Stoughton District Court 2 days later to try to get an order on me. When it was denied and I found out about it, Jennifer McCabe became furious. God, you would think that he was just like having lunch and dinner with these people, knowing all this shit. And once again, told Morrissey to do something. He did that on September 29th when he used his burner email account to secretly message the judge in Stoughton District Court and voice his disapproval about what had happened. No, he wanted to know who told you that there's a leak. It wasn't like disapproval of it. He wanted to know how it got out that Chris Albert was even denied. On September 28, 2023, Chris Albert unsuccessfully petitioned to harassment. The court denied Mr. Albert an order, concluding that his allegations did not constitute true threats or harassment under the law. Notwithstanding his supposed recusal from the Kearney investigation, on September 28, D.A. Morrissey, from his personal email account, contacted several high-ranking Massachusetts judicial figures. Jesus, demanding. Look at this. Demanding that a Stoughton court clerk be investigated. And then he just stops. I was arrested 2 weeks later at my kid's bus stop. I was arrested 2 weeks later at my kid's bus stop for being a complete fucking menace. So what changed in the months of September? Too bad this ages horribly when fucking Yannetti says, I'm afraid they're coming for you and they're going to arrest you and you can't fuck with the witnesses anymore. You hooligans. It cannot be assumed that Judge Doolin knows who Kate Peter is. Fucking Kate Peter. What the fuck does she have to do with this shit? So, brief history of her obsession with me was required. Miss Peter worked for Mr. Kearney from September 2018 until February of 2020. When Mr. Kearney terminated her ass. Who gives a fuck? Since Mr. Kearney terminated her, Miss Peters' unhealthy fixation. Mr. Betterow, who writes this shit in an affidavit? These are the days of our lives. The Young and the Restless. General Hospital. Look at him. Get the violin out, okay? Since Mr. Kearney terminated her, Miss Peters' unhealthy fixation on need and Mr. Kearney seemingly has just totally dominated her life. It recently resulted in her being permanently stained with a criminal record. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Kate had a long and documented history of forgery and fraud. You guys, what the fuck does this have to do with him recording himself committing crimes? You act like two things can't be true. This is just, who the fuck? These jurors are going to be like, he thinks Kate Peters is a witness. She's not a witness to shit. Oh, that's like saying you got to use a CI and bring him on in. This is wild. Just absolutely wild to me. Miss Peter brazenly sent YouTube when she also being represented. Great. Awesome. What does this have to do with shit? You guys are in a pissing war. You should have thought twice before breaking the law when you have all these fucking motherfuckers that you totally shit on. And that they're not sitting there waiting to just fucking rail you. What an idiot. He had it coming from every which way and he didn't know who was doing shit. He's just blaming everybody. On November 20th, 2022, in an online interview, Miss Peter admitted that she submitted. This is, what the fuck? Who cares? Great. Look at this. This is far from the only time she lied in an attempt to harm me. Harm me, motherfucker. Miss Peter has been obsessed with me for years. But the obsession is one-sided. Oh my God. Dude, he talked about her every single day in every fucking blog. I don't concern myself with whatever she talks about on her channel. Lies. I don't attempt to meddle in her personal life. Are you fucking... Oh my God. He knew if I don't try to get her on this restraining order one more time and renew it, I am going to be in prison and won't be able to do it next March. So this will be my only time to do it again. I can't believe you. Can you believe Mark Betterow was swearing to this shit in an affidavit? Oh, and then they don't do their own homework and they think KP is a fucking Kate Peters and it's a cop. Idiots. He said, I don't contact her partner on his work email. Yeah, you do. Other people and CC his boss like she did. I don't create burner phone numbers to harass her. What? I don't stalk and harass her romantic love interest like she did with me. I don't seek out and post revenge porn of her. I don't try to befriend every single person who has a falling out with her like she does with me. I don't have my children contact her and threaten to harm her children like what the fuck is all this fucking bleh? I think you both could potentially need a padded room at what you're fucking saying here. And I don't show up at her house and leave deranged notes on her doorstep like she did on mine on the day of the rolling rally. What? 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 After breaking the Karen Reed story, she was the last thing on my mind. What? He needs to just tell himself this shit. Kate was part of my past, and the future was bright as I was uncovering the story of the century in Canton. Oh my God, I'm dead. Karen, are you... Karen, I was uncovering the story of the century in Canton. Bless us. But Kate couldn't let go of me. Kate couldn't let go of me. Without me, her life has no purpose. She had to involve herself in the story somehow. But instead of attempting to prove I was wrong, oh, that's what I've been doing. About the facts, yep. Of the case, yep. She decided to create a fake email account called Mia Rose and send me an intentionally false tip. No, she showed you and the rest of the world that you don't vet shit, motherfucker. Whatever somebody emails, you run with. If it's about your narrative and it goes with what your narratives, you won't even contact the person back and you're just, oh my God, yeah, let me use this. She fucking exposed you for being horrible at your job. This is crazy. Can't believe this. That Colin Albert sold drugs out of his father's pizza shop. Her hope was that I would report this lie and cause emotional harm to Chris and Colin Albert. No, she hadn't. She didn't care about harming Chris or Colin because they were strangers to her. She just wanted to fuck with me. Oh my God. And then so Mark Federer writes all of this shit in his affidavit. Miss Peter's deranged scheme, including look at this. Miss Peter conceded that. Unfortunately for her, I didn't fall for it. What? Yeah, you did. And although I alerted my audience that I was going to follow up on the fake tip she sent me, I made it clear that there was no evidence to support what she was saying. To further attempt to trick me, she created a fake screenshot of what she alleged was conversation with her and Colin Albert attempting to purchase drugs from him. You guys are trolling each other. What is this? Turtleboy live runs with fake info again, proves he's not a journalist. Yeah, that's exactly. She's just a scam. She's alerting the world that you're just scamming people. You're a scammer. Scam, scoo. Is this a court motion or a live letter? I know, it's crazy. This is unbelievable. On May 29th, 2023, during her own live stream, Miss Peter gloated about her disgraceful conduct. Amused by her little fib, she proudly admitted that the defamatory and false information she provided Mr. Kearney about Mr. Albert or about the Alberts was 100% fabricated out of my mind. Kate went on to threaten me in that stream, stating that I should fear her, and issued a call to arms. What the fuck? She issued a call to arms to her troll followers to send me false information. Oh my God, what a puss. Puss. As a result of her lie, many people, including former DEA agent Sean McDonough, began to defame Colin Albert as a rug dealer. Her lie did, in fact, cause emotional harm to Chris and Colin Albert, which Chris detailed in his August 1st text message referenced above. Despite knowing all of this, no, actually, they had no idea about any of this. Tully and Mello ended up relying on Miss Peter as their primary source of information into their investigation of me. Oh my God. Oh my God. He just admits that Kate Peter just popped on the scene in September. Okay. But yet he's been doing all of this shit since April of 2023. No. She had not just popped on the scene. She... Dude. There is nothing to investigate. It is either First Amendment or it's witness intimidation, and you recorded yourself and you put it on every single live. There is nothing to investigate. And this is what he sold and had Melanie Little sell all of these fucking swallowers. Oh my God. Remember, by early September, they had no plan to arrest me. Lies. David and Eddie knew. Michael Proctor was upset about it and really wanted to do it himself, but they didn't have a plan. This is where Kate Peter came in. Miss Peter started out by trolling me, but by July, she was attempting to win over the McAlberts and prove to them that she could be their Turtleboy. I thought she wasn't around until September. Now you're telling us in the next paragraph that in July, she was with the McAlberts. Like, you are a horrible storyteller. If you want, like, truth. She started a Facebook support group for the McCabe's, Alberts, and O'Keefe's, where she bragged about going to my house and offered to help them find a free lawyer to sue me. This is hilarious. In July 2023, Miss Peter created a Facebook group support for MAOs, Miss McKay, blah, 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 blah. At one point, Miss Peter volunteered to help members of the group find an attorney to deal with Aiden. Oh my God. This is in a fucking court. So I put a call into an attorney I've worked with in the past in civil court to try and feel out any options, costs associated to put a damper on this ongoing harassment and defamation. I like someone to step in and deal with the cops media, for all the parties being victimized to try and end or at least reduce things like home visits from strangers, crazy defamatory statements, public disruption, borderline stalking, etc. I don't know what will come of it, but I do know some people who may at least know some people trying to find something, contingency based, pro bono, or at least deeply discounted. I mean, I'm pretty on fire about this today. So DM me if you have any questions, thoughts, suggestions, or interest, or just leave them under this post. Seen by 13 people. Seen by 13 people. You left that up. Are you dumb? Oh my God. This was only seen by 13 people. FYI, Aiden's mailbox is on the ground, held up by a fucking rope. His soft hands have never touched a hammer before. I'm certain, less certain about other men's penis. Oh my God. What the fuck is this? Tim Albert and 7 others. Oh my God. Seen by 58 people. Left this in the door at blank. Can't wait for the call from Holden PD because he's a hypocrite. Hi, blank. Sorry I missed you. As I leave this note, your husband is leading a husband is leading a parade of morons around to the homes and businesses of state's witnesses in a murder case. He's terrorized these people at home, at their children's events numerous times. But good news, it's legal. So I'm a reporter working on a story about his something on witness intimidation, and I'm looking for comment from you. Additionally, I took the liberty of sharing your address with these witnesses, friends, and family of the murder victim. Not that I needed to, as it's avoidable online. Oh, and that it's available online. Don't forget your husband has established through his actions that this is legal. See you around. Oh my God. But she didn't start working directly with police until September. On 9/13, she tweeted about me allegedly wiretapping Steve Scanlon, which she bragged about sending to the state police. You did illegally. The evidence shows that she emailed an edited version of this recording to Tully an hour after her tweet. No, she emailed it. No, the evidence showed that she emailed your link that was only available for so long before then you deleted it, which then broke the link. Which ended up being played in front of the grand jury. However, the audio, which we did not receive in discovery until just last month, has the first 109 edited out. And the original has been deleted by Miss Peter. Miss Peter didn't delete shit. Look at this motherfucker. Look at how he's trying. Yeah, and then Kate Peters deleted it. No, you're the one with the original link because you uploaded it to fucking YouTube. once you upload it to YouTube, as it was private, he then unprivated it by accident for 10 minutes, grabbed the link, okay, and then forward that link. If you then delete, it will then break the link and there's nothing there. The only person that could do that was Turtleboy. Oh, damn, he's just getting himself into this is fabricating about this is crazy. On September 13th, 2000, now Mark wants to, put this in writing. On September 13th, 2023 at 3:34 p.m., Miss Peter publicly bragged that she had archived a purportedly illegal recording made by the retard Mr. Carney of his conversation with Steve Scanlon, a private investigator who was tangentially involved in the Reed case in early 2022. Miss Peter claimed that she forwarded the recording to MSP. Oh my God. He's using Turtleboy derangement syndrome in his fucking affidavit as a footer of 15. Oh my God. An affliction which causes people who turn on Turtleboy, Mr. Kearney, to engage in irrational behavior more than the several people who protested in support of Miss Reed's innocence and then flippantly switched sides and protested for her conviction solely because of their hatred for Mr. Carney. You're disgusting, Mark. No, it's anybody with a brain and that looks at something themselves and wants to utilize their brain because they actually did their own research themselves. They realize that, oh my God, this man has been lying the whole time and so has the defense. Holy shit, this timeline is nothing of what it's been ever made to seem like it's been. Yep, Mark Betterow, look like, dude, he's a media whore. After she accused Mr. Carney of intimidating her, Miss Gaetani became such a rabid advocate for Miss Reed's guilt that on July 1st, 2024, clad in the same Justice for John O'Keefe shirt as Miss Peter, she appeared with Miss Peter on a live interview with Court TV. I cannot believe that you wrote that. Because the next thing is, and question mark, what the fuck is the point? Who cares? You want to say it's hatred for Aiden Carney? No, it's the lies and the manipulation and the completely fabricated timeline of events that began with the attorneys of Karen Reed and Karen Reed herself with Aiden Carney. Usually, just so we're clear, usually attorneys don't engage in this type of stuff. They don't. Why would you ever want to put I'm not putting my name on the line for anything of this. Like, even if you tell me all of this, whatever, that they're not going to be like, yep, let me go and put this in an 88-page filing and make myself look like I'm an absolute blowboard. Like, here you go. Aiden, what do you want me to do? Sure. Let me just run. Oh, wait, how high do you want me to jump? Okay. On information and belief, yet again, look at this. He can't ever just say it. On information and belief on September 13th, 2023 at 4:23 p.m., Miss Peter created a version of the recording and sent it to Detective Lieutenant Tully in a private link. Wrong. November 28th, 2023 transcript. Tully testified that he had been sent a video of the Scanlon recording. At 19, Detective Lieutenant Tully, the person who sent it to, she stated it was a private link. Yeah. So it was not available for public distribution. Yeah. Because Aiden Carney privated the motherfucking link after he put it out on accident for 10 minutes publicly. Then he goes in and he hits private, which then makes it so you can't view it. Aiden Carney did that. The only person that could have done that is the owner of that fucking video and link. Aiden Carney. I own a YouTube channel. Do you need an affidavit of how this works? This is fucking nuts that you're in here misrepresenting how fucking videos are stored and created. It's disgusting. Detective Lieutenant Tully stated that or testified that the person who it was sent to, she stated it was a private link, so it was not available for public distribution. Yeah, because he privated it. An audio copy of the recording that Miss Peter sent the MSP on or about September 13th, 2023, the substance of which was played as a video before the grand jury, see November 28th, 2023 transcript, wasn't provided to the defense until August 8th, 2025. The version of the recording provided to the defense doesn't include the beginning of the recorded call, skips and repeats. It is clearly edited. The defense hasn't been provided with a copy of the email or any communication in which Miss Peter provided the Scanlon recording to the MSP. The Scanlon audio is what got the state police to start trusting and using her as a defect. No, but I love how he wants to say that it is. On September 27th, the day after Mello was hired, she began emailing Bukkake documents that have not been provided to the defense. Bukkake wasn't a passive recipient, though. He praised and thanked her work. This is fucking ridiculous. This is unbelievable. This is going to be amazing tomorrow. Who's going to come out here and watch this shit? Tomorrow at 9 a.m. That's your guys' prep. Enjoy it. 2 hours and 51 minutes. We are in for a treat. Or like a normal judge will just say, as he's already made it perfectly clear that this is continuing on, he saw Mark's, 88 pages and all this fucking shit. And it's like, yep, be prepared to go to trial here. They're not going to be disqualifying Cosgrove. This is not going to be getting dismissed. In fact, I think Mark Betterow made some pretty fucking interesting claims about the whole editing and shit like that. No. And making it seem like that Turtleboy didn't say the sentences that he said and they were chopped up and made into that's what fabricating and editing and manipulating is. Shortening something up to show a grand jury so we're not playing 5 hours per video. Okay? That's what you do at the grand jury. You can also testify to hearsay. Unreal. Moto says, Julies are the craziest people on earth. I know all too well, way too well. It just nuts. KP and Bukkake quickly were on a first name basis and began emailing more. On September 29th, when Bukkake knew that I would be arrested, there was no talks about being arrested. He emailed Kate Peter. Right after that, she tweeted, October 10th, he knows the deal, in reference to me being charged. Nope, that's a lie. What else did you have going on, Turtleboy? I cannot believe the lies that you write. This is wild. According to state, there was a totally different thing going on. According to state police transmissions, on the morning of my arrest, she was scoping out my kid's bus stop. Dude, the day before, and provided this information to state police so they could plan on my arrest on October 11th. 146 Mark, this is the radio transmission, and they say KP. And I'm like, well, why didn't you go and look at the charging docs and look at the fucking officers involved in your bullshit? And there is an officer with the initials KP. And I'm like, what an absolute, how does Mark Betterow not check this out? Look at what he writes. 158 on September 29th, 2023 at 9:38 a.m. Miss Peter, now on a first name basis with Sergeant Buchanan, Yuri, blah, blah, blah. Miss Peter provided Sergeant Buchanan with blah, blah, blah. Miss Peter told Sergeant Buchanan that she was blah, blah, blah. On September 29th at 3 p.m., Miss Peter tweeted, October 10th, he knows the deal. In response to another's post asking her, when Mr. Kearney would be subpoenaed. What? That has nothing to do with being arrested. It has to do with they have a totally separate case. Look at this fucking bastard. Look at him just lying to these fucking idiots then that go out and spread his lies that fucking support this absolute fucking tard. He just wrote up there that, she tweeted this out because she knew when I was getting arrested. Like, he knows the deal. No. As Mark Betterow says, he knows the deal in response to another's post asking her when Mr. Kearney would be subpoenaed. Subpoena and arrest are not synonymous, just in case anybody wanted to know that. On information and belief, oh my God, again, I just love it. On information and belief, Miss Peters' reference to he knows the deal indicates that the MSP told her several weeks before Mr. Kearney's arrest that they intended to arrest him on October 10th, 2023. Mark Betterow, looking so good. You are fucking wrong because you believe in your lying client. Oh my God. And these people that are out here fucking supporting this. Credibility. Psh, crash and burn. He's nuts. Again, that's why he has to write on information and belief, because that's not true. So every time he writes that, you should now question very much so when he is saying those things that they are not truthful. And that's why he's saying, like, this should not be anywhere in an affidavit. You don't write on information and belief. On September 29th, 2023 at 4 p.m., Sergeant Buchanan forwarded his email correspondence of September 27th and 29th with Miss Peter to blank. Still waiting on that subpoena any day now, right? People often ask us why we bother to archive Dr. Turtleboy. It's times like this when he accidentally shares illegal recordings. Look at that, from September 13th. Illegal recordings and takes them down real quick. Sorry, retard, but it's been saved and forwarded. Enjoy the additional subpoena I heard was signed off on your phone. So she says on September 29th, this person, Ligma, goes to an old post of Kate Peters on September 13th to purposely comment on that. It's like she basically pulls up this old post, I'm going to use this to post, and then Kate Peters then comes from behind and says, October 10th, he knows the deal. Still waiting on that subpoena. Any day now, right? And trying, so whoever this person is, this restless, you know what it says there? That is a 1000% a person in Aiden's circle that did that on purpose to be able to manipulate shit, because that's what they just do. But she's like, October 10th, he knows the deal. And that is a completely different case, has nothing to do with this. And Aiden knew it when he told Mark Betterow that it was about him getting arrested. October 10th, he knows the deal. Today is October 10th. You said he'd be getting a subpoena today. Was that another lie? See that? Trump versus DeSantis. Oh, that was... So here he's contacting her and writing underneath. Today's October 10th. You said he'd be getting a subpoena today. Was that another lie? Sorry, it was actually today. Arrested, baby. Sorry, it was actually today. Arrested, baby. October 11th, 2023, 9:38 a.m. So he tried to make it seem like that this all had to do with his arrest. Nope. This had to do with, and that's that Trump versus DeSantis. That's him. That's Turtleboy. That's his alt. And how she knows that he was arrested that early. it's already been, it's out there, the chronological order of events. MSP audio transmissions from immediately before Mr. Carney's arrest reveal that the arrest team, a fugitive unit, which included Detective Lieutenant Tully, heard from KP. It was the same thing from yesterday. 2 older kids getting on around the same time, but it was 8:30. Mark Betterow puts this out without looking at the fucking police reports, without looking about who was on the fugitive task force that he's referring to. And he should then know exactly who the K and the P refer to. And he was part of the arresting fugitive task force with Turtleboy, one of the dudes. This is when I would drop my client. Or is this when you need to say to your, like, you just made me look like a fool when you knew the truth? No, I didn't know the truth. You should have looked at the fucking, police report. They both. I would have just been like, I don't have time for your fucking games. We're not doing this. Like, you're dealing with on information and belief, again, here goes. On information and belief, KP referred to Miss Peter, and she helped the MSP coordinate Mr. Carney's arrest by monitoring him beforehand. Can you fucking believe he wrote that in his affidavit? Holy shit. I'm telling you, there is no way if I do this stuff with an attorney here in Ohio that they are like, yeah, Lana, we are so happy to be representing you. And we're going to continue to represent you because you continue to be so truthful with us. Unbelievable. And again, every time he goes on information and belief, he's wrong. And his information and belief is coming from Aiden Carney, which then he never goes and does his due diligence as an attorney and looks up and makes sure that it's correct. That's why you should never be writing this. Because you could never, and he got called out for it. Cosgrove railed Betterow in a reply to this. Despite knowing her history of fraud, deceit, and her personal obsession with harming me at any cost, Tully, Mello, Buchanan, and others still used her as the primary source of their information to indict me. No, they did not. They didn't need a primary source. You were the primary source. You fucking tard. You and you alone. And you tried to make it in disguise and smoke and mirrors, all this shit. And hey, we need to write up this so that they can put it out. This is what I want. And Better was like, yeah, pay me $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 and I'll write this. Sure. For months prior to the November 28, 2023 commencement of the grand jury proceedings, Detective Lieutenant Tully, Sergeant Buchanan, and Mr. Proctor were aware of Miss Peters' unstable obsession with Mr. Carney. What the fuck does that have anything to do with anything? But again, because Mr. Betterow told the courts that Kate Peters was basically running undercover task force with them, he continued on. As experienced detectives who would have been investigating Mr. Carney since mid-2023, the MSP knew or should have known of numerous red flags which adversely impacted Miss Peters' credibility, including her eager insert of herself into this investigation, her personal animus towards Mr. Carney, which gave her a clear motive. I mean, he is just writing this shit in his affidavit. After my arrest, but before my indictment, Kate was in constant communication with Mello and Tully, emailing them links that have since been deleted. By who? There's only one way that deletion can occur, that it can occur. If she's emailing links, it's from his broadcasts. And then he's either, deleting them or making them public or private, which were used against me as evidence in front of the grand jury that indicted me. So then what he went ahead and did is, let me tell you what this sick bastard did. And I think that they need to look into this. He saw what exhibits were used against him at the grand jury, went into his then, I have my whole, library of everything that I have ever posted and made a video of, right? And did he delete episodes so that they were not and could not be seen from YouTube anymore? So back a while ago, what I did, because when I saw this, I knew that could have been a potentiality of what he did to then be able to make these claims. So there's ways that you can go ahead and check on certain things as far as views and when those views were happening. And if there's a stagnant of nobody ever looked at this video from, like, let's say, like, a certain period of time, 6 months, whatever the 6 months is. If you can show, I think you can show enough circumstantial evidence where that means you removed it, okay, from the viewing of anybody, okay, and then did X, Y, and Z, or you could have edited your own video, but that would have to all come in and you want to go and get a third party subpoena here, warrant, to be able to, you can get into Aiden's back end of his channel. In fact, that's why and how we were so successful in the Mike McKee case here in Columbus, when the brother-in-law of Monique Tepe, he was also the he did all the photography for their wedding and made an awesome wedding video. And when we were looking at that, we contacted, I said, hey, go in and look and see how many views. We're going to do the same thing on the back end to see how many views your wedding video or their wedding video had. And we're going to see if we can see where the views were coming from, like what part, like what state, what city, county, like what can we do? And I made a note and I said, if I was prosecuting Turtleboy, I would 1000% be utilizing the back end of YouTube, because that's obstruction of, that's after the fact obstruction of, you're obstructing justice, but you're also tampering with evidence. But here he's trying to put it in the affidavit that Kate Peter did all this shit. Like, look at this. To this day, the DA hasn't informed the defense of who, if anyone, served on Miss Peters' team. Excuse me? Miss Peters sent Detective Lieutenant Tully blank, which she blank, wherever she believed there was evidence of a crime. She advised Detective Lieutenant Tully whatever. Dude, you can send whatever emails you want to detectives, to police, to prosecutors. It doesn't make you part of any team. And you know what's nuts is that Mark Betterow knows this. So what are you doing? But when you're fucked, you're fucked. And Mark Betterow is throwing the entire kitchen sink. But did he go too far? Because there's an oath that you take. And if you know that your client is lying, you're not allowed to lie to the tribunal. You cannot knowingly or even have an inkling that your client is lying, and then therefore you're going to help by helping them. That's misconduct. And it's fucking blatant. You can't do certain things I can't knowingly put you on the stand and let you lie and ask you questions that you're going to testify to that would be a lie. I can't do that as an attorney. I am then assisting in committing a crime. That's all under your ethical oath that you take and you sign off on. I mean, Miss Peter further informed Detective Lieutenant Tully that her team had blank, 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 blank. Ms. Peters' November 26, 2023 communications with Mr. Mello conclusively established that Mr. Mello outsourced investigative work to her, discussed strategy with her, was aware that she edited Mr. Carney's content. Do you see this shit? He should be out for Pro Hoc Vice. I think Mark Betterow should be out. He should not be able to represent Aiden Carney in this capacity. This is nuts. Was aware she edited Mr. Carney's content. There is no editing. He did it all himself. There's no editing anything. With her own editorial slant and bias, and that he reviewed private links she sent him 2 days before the grand jury proceeding starting. Who gives a fuck? That's like taking a clip of mine and sending it to somebody. Like, who gives a shit? Hey, this is the material. She's actually commenting on something from somebody else's channel, and that's that person's channel. That's Aiden's channel. Don't mind me, but here's the material because guess what? Aiden took it down. But guess what? It's kind of preserved because this girl screen recorded herself doing this. And so you're going to actually have the way that it was beforehand. Let's just hypothetically say that that could potentially be a way that, you know, I made a video, let's say just a day or two after you produce a video. And I actually have proof then if my video that I just am doing a commentary on, this was the form of it. And now how it looks, let's say a year later, because you can go in and you can edit stuff. And it's like, that's not what it said then. And I actually have the proof of it because I did a commentary video on your content, and the date would show that this was the product that I was dealing with then. Because I wouldn't put anything past Aiden Carney. On November 26th, just 2 days before Mr. Mello commenced the grand jury presentation, Miss Peter emailed him subject line blank and blank, blank, like this. Ms. Peter sought Mr. Mello's blank, writing blank. Miss Peter email provided Detective Lieutenant Tully with another link to a blank. Almost 2 years later, the defense hasn't been provided with this video file and any response by Detective Lieutenant Tully to Miss Peter's question. That's because just because you ask somebody something, police know that they're not going to tell you something they can't tell you. And so what's making it seem like that there's a missing response, it's like, no, the police just don't respond. And so you just can't assume that it was deleted or it wasn't provided. You got to have to prove that by showing that it exists because you got it another way. You get what I'm saying? And then that's withholding, and that's Brady. But what it seems like what was done here is that Turtleboy, if Kate Peter is providing links that are directly to his channel, and that motherfucker deletes that, it'll be a broken link. It does not work. There is nothing there. If the link was made public and then it goes from being public to private, it will then tell you this is a privated video. You can't see anything and that would be at the only person that could do that is Turtleboy, is the person who has the back end entry of the YouTube channel. And so what Mr. Betterow does here is he makes it seem like Kate Peter and the Detective Lieutenant Tully were in cahoots and just deleted these fucking links so they didn't have to provide them to the defense. And it's like, no, whatever was provided, like, here you go, here's the email. Oh wait, here's the link. There's nothing there because they were deleted by the fucking person that created it. According to Detective Tully, he relied upon information Miss Peter provided him before he edited Mr. Carney's YouTube episodes. And you using the word edited. And what did the judge say? He reamed Mark Betterow about using the word edited. You're making it seem like these were changed. Instead of saying, no, I just took a clip. The word edit and clip they are not synonymous with each other. And Mark Betterow is totally misleading and mischaracterizing. And this is supposed to be heavily frowned upon. And no one's going to read this shit. And this is why when we see the hearing then, and everyone's like, oh my God, why did the judge do that? And I can't believe they didn't grant this or they did this. You guys, they're not granting things because of shit like this. The gamesmanship, right? These judges, they're the ones that are reading every document. They're the ones that are seeing everything. And we're already here getting this little snippet or clippet of what is truly going on, right? But we're the ones left with these influencers that are pushing like, oh my God, can you believe that they denied this? They are fucking biased. They are fucking corrupt. And it's like, no, look at this shit, man. How would you feel if you were, even you don't even have to be a judge, if you're a person and you have two people that are trying to tell you a side of their story, right? And the one person's lying to you and the other person's not. You think that you're going to give inside with the people that are lying to you or pushing some narrative that just didn't occur and making evidence seem to try to gaslight you into going their way? Are you going to? No, not in the slightest. And in fact, then you're going to have a what? Hey, now you're not going to believe anything they say. And you're not going to get the benefit of any doubt. And yeah, so that's where it's at for me. Turtleboy, you could go take your money, take everything you own, and put it all on the house. Turtleboy is not winning this motion because of the antics and the lies and the boldness that was written in these 88 pages. And the only way that Turtleboy does not go to trial, in my opinion, again, bet the house on it, is if the prosecution, if the Commonwealth offers him a plea deal. And I don't think that they are. I think he is going to try everything he can to get one. But the only way is if it's going to be if the prosecution wants to do that. But he did all of this shit during the murder investigation and trial. Okay, because it's always, you're still an open and active investigation until you go to, trial. During a pending proceeding in a Boston cops murder trial. If you think that a judge is going to find some way to let Aiden Carney out, you've lost your mind. He did this during a Boston cops murder trial, pending trial. And then there is no way in hell any judge is going to be a part of letting Turtleboy, or anybody for that matter, not face, hey, you're going to let the jury's going to decide this. Or if the prosecution wants to cut you some type of plea deal, but my name's not going to be assigned to, giving you some pass. It's not happening. Sorry. And when you pull the wool back, you see what the fuck truly went on here. And he did do what he is accused of doing. And I think he did affect John O'Keefe in the process. He affected, because of the way that he went about his witness intimidation. And this was part of, a conspiracy that, hey, the person that was accused is going to walk. And should they walk? I think he had I think what went on here definitely affected the outcome of this trial. And that's why they have no statute of limitations on this, because it's with whatever you're being witness intimidation for. And this is murder. Karen Reed was charged with murder. That enhances every single count to 20 years. And I think that he should serve everything, concurrent. And I just don't know how a jury is going to go back to a room and when you have all these names and say that this person wasn't witness intimidated, but this person was, and this person wasn't, and this person was, you're going to look at these victims and they're going to say he did this to every single one of them. So how are you going to get a jury? Okay. So it's going to come down to the testimony of these victims, right? Aiden Carney's victims of witness intimidation. And I think that there's going to be some testimony about people not testifying in trial too because of it, which then handicapped Hank Brennan and how he could go about his prosecution of Karen Reed. Because if you get all the same people getting up on the stand and just being asked, did John O'Keefe walk in that house? No. That's pretty powerful. So if anybody didn't testify in trial too because of this, how is that going to sit with the jury? And then you see his prior bad acts, which are going to come in because they show intent. They show your character with the intent because this is how you've always been. This is your tactics. You didn't just start employing them in April of 2023. You've been doing this since NAM and you just haven't gotten caught. And then you did it on such a high scale here. And then you got caught. And also recording yourself is going to get you caught. So historically, when juries are given a ton of charges, ton of counts, and they have to go back and they're talking about, like, we're talking a shit ton, right? Historically, if you want to play based off of the numbers, for Aiden Carney to overcome this and walk out with nothing, that'll be one of the most historic wins in history. Karen Reed didn't walk out with nothing. There's no way that jury is not coming back with guilty on John McCabe, guilty on Colin Albert, guilty on Juliana Nagel with witness intimidation. The only thing that could potentially keep Chris Albert is because he was he worked for the town. But those three, hands down, witness intimidation. No, there's not a doubt in my mind. Based on the statute. Again, based on the statute, based on the elements of witness intimidation. Those three, there ain't no way that those are not guilty. Those are guilty, guilty, guilty. And those in and of itself are from a max of 20 years per. And the judge is the one that's going to decide how he sentences Aiden Carney. You know, Los says he's going to get rung up with something. The judge already alluded to this being a press play situation. Yeah. I'm curious what's going to be potentially, if you're Aiden Carney, you want to make it so that they cannot talk about anything to do with your past at all. So will Robert Cosgrove be allowed? And I think that it meets the 403, the evidence that it meets it, because it's intent. And Aiden Carney has just talked about nothing about, like, they have to prove my intent. I'm the one that can prove my intent. No, actually, we're allowed to use your past behavior to prove intent. And so he walked himself into that. And I think that that Cosgrove is 1000% going to be able to use the stuff that he did to, like, Chrissy. The stuff that he did to, I mean, I think Chrissy is the number one who I would be pointing out, that day that he's driving in that fucking minivan. Like the best video of our time, man. And then when he goes to that bar and the shit that he's talking about, who the fuck do you think I am? Do you think I'm the most vindictive fuck you know? You don't think I'm going to come and I'm going to take everything from him and do this. I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. I'm going to ruin your life because you thought that you could fuck with me. And the fucking with him was telling the truth in a different proceeding. And then whereas she then became a witness. And so he then attacked her and went after her. And you show that and you're allowed to? Motherfucker's guilty on all of it. Every single one of it. And yeah, it's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I would be checking that box. He's spiraling bad. Yeah. And I mean, he should just shut the fuck up. He should just shut the fuck up. He should shut the fuck up. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Which will be tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Come back and check it out. We'll see what happens in the courtroom. Again, my prediction is this is continuing on. And yeah. Then the judge is going to say, okay, we got some deadline dates here of a suppression hearing, if there's anything to suppress here. And then the motion limines, but that's it. And then he's going to trial December 1st. So we're going to be talking about discovery. Potentially the taint team that had to go through his shit. So I think there's going to be some discovery talks. Where are they at? Like, where was the deadline with that? And like I said, Turtleboy has drugged this on for 3 fucking years. And that's what guilty people do. Guilty people drag stuff on. Okay. And drag it on and drag it on and drag it on. That's not what innocent people do. Imagine if he was actually in jail waiting. Okay. This Karen Reed had 2 murder trials completed. She was arrested in 2022. She faced her first trial in 2024 and her second trial in 2025. She went through 2 murder trials and he still hasn't even gone to fucking trial. He's scared, and he should be, and he knows what he did, and he's going to try everything he can, right? He's got the money and the support to, hey, however we can loophole this, whatever we can do. And don't you think for a second he isn't trying to cut a deal, because he is. He is. Anybody would be doing that if you were in his shoes. And I'm over here saying, I think he should take 5 years and see if he can do that, and then get the whole serve the good time. You got the whatever, and he could be out in 2, but like something like that, where he would serve like 2.5 years. He would be a convicted felon. And people can be like, Lana, you're crazy. I'm like, dude, look at what he's facing. This decision has a lot at stake here on how moving forward, if he's found not guilty across the board, do you understand what that can do for the criminal justice system down the road? There ain't no, like, this has really, really big. And then I know the mottos were talking about maybe he should take a bench trial. And I think it's just all going to come down to the sentencing, though. Like, what's this judge going to do? I don't know. But we'll see on the next one. Good luck to the prosecution. Good luck to Turtleboy. Not that I think that luck is going to play any type of factor here. So let's cheer on fairness. Okay, Turtleboy deserves a fair shake, so I don't want to see any fucking funny business in this courtroom tomorrow. Turtleboy is innocent until proven guilty, and he deserves that. It doesn't help that he recorded himself committing every single crime that he is alleged having committed. And so think about if we had like the Rihanna video. We saw P. Diddy beat the shit out of Rihanna. Okay, he's guilty. He's guilty. P. Diddy was found guilty of that. He recorded himself. And there's no telling what's still on the phones that we don't even know about. If I'm Karen Reed, dude, I'm kind of scared about all this shit because there's no statute of limitations on that witness intimidation for her either. And the last thing that, can you imagine like your life being in that man's hands, and if he's just going to have a bad day that day and just fucking do something so stupid, you know? But hey, you roll around with, you catch some fleas. So see you on the next one.